approximately forever.
We cannot afford to be so politically correct anymore. Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
Please continue to hold for the next available representative.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
We appreciate you waiting and waiting. What is it you're waiting for? Do you even know anymore?
These are people who work hard but no longer have a voice. I am your voice.
Disconnected.
Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new live stream. We got a decent amount to cover here tonight. Make sure you guys like the stream down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So we'll put the face cam on. We're ready to go. It is the Indiana primary. Indiana's voting. Donald Trump already projected the winner. No Democrat competition on the Democrat side. I think that they're trying to do some write-in campaign for uncommitted, but still it doesn't seem like it's going to work. We have two tabulation errors already on the map. There are two counties here that show that Haley is up big, but I think they got the numbers mixed up, and they're probably going to correct that momentarily. But still, here we go. We got to talk about this because everybody's going to be asking, why is he at 76%? Well, one, a lot of these are just mail-in votes. Second of all, it's an open primary. There's no Democrat competition. Democrats, a lot of them are crossing over, and they're trying to infiltrate the gubernatorial primary. And if you look at it, there's like a 1-to-1 correlation for where Mike Braun is doing poorly and where Nikki Haley's been doing well in the early vote. But still, Mike Braun, he's going to be the nominee for governor. It's official. They've projected him the winner. We can project him the winner. And as a result, well, he's going to be the next governor, I guess. I don't think that the Democrats really are going to pose much of a threat. Braun is somebody who started off a little weak in the Senate, and then he got utterly destroyed on Tucker Carlson's show during the whole BLM riots of 2020. And then he started to be more competent. He started to be better. And he's a hell of an upgrade over Governor Eric Holcomb, who's basically DeWine to the West. So you're going to have a decent governor, comparatively speaking, the best governor that Indiana's had in quite some time in Mike Braun. But also for the Senate race, you get an upgrade over Braun because Braun's not running for re-election, but Jim Banks, who's probably the best Republican in the delegation in Indiana. I know it's not saying a whole lot, but he's like a Freedom Caucus member, that sort of thing. He is the nominee. He's probably going to win that Senate seat. The Democrats, look at that. 26,000 votes. So in total, they're probably going to finish with 200,000. Republicans in total are going to finish with like 700,000. That's where a lot of those Haley voters are coming in from. But keep in mind, that margin is likely going to shrink down into the probably low teens by the end of the night. And if you look at the full results and you look at the counties that are most of the way in, Donald Trump getting in the high 80s. Keep in mind, he only got 91% of the vote in the 2020 primary. There were really no reason for any crossover votes to exist. And on top of that, Nikki Haley, say what you will, is a hell of a lot more well-known than somebody like a Bill Weld, and Trump's not the incumbent president anymore. But it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter whatsoever. Donald Trump is in a very good position regardless of what percentage he precisely gets in the primary. He's likely going to come close to setting a record in raw votes in primary history in the state of Indiana. If you want to look at the Indiana primary in 2020, I believe that's the record that he set. Biden got 380,000 votes, and he only got 76.5%. Donald Trump's already doing better than Biden, despite the fact the primary took place after Bernie Sanders dropped out. All the voting did. And you look at the Republican primary, Donald Trump got 504,000 votes. I think he beats it tonight, wouldn't you think? I mean, just based off of what we have in so far, he's at 70,000, probably around 100,000, give or take, when 20% of the vote is in, and the later vote dumps are going to favor him. It's going to be close. He might beat his all-time vote record, but apparently if he's not at 99%, somebody's going to have some sort of a problem, just like Pennsylvania. But when we did a deep dive in Pennsylvania, we looked at all the factors. It proved that Donald Trump was in a very, very, very good position in the state of Pennsylvania for the general election, setting records for a non-incumbent. I mean, that's absolutely crazy. He got 84% of the vote, but Biden, he got 87.8, 87.9, and he didn't run up against anybody. And that was an electorate that was smaller than the 2020 Pennsylvania primary electorate by a significant margin. So already you see Biden enthusiasm not exactly where it was. Donald Trump still maintaining a decent level of enthusiasm right now. So we're going to see what's going to happen tonight as the results pour in. But we also have some down ballot races, and we got some other things to talk about. Donald Trump's trial has been postponed indefinitely in Florida. Not the New York trial, but the Florida one has been postponed indefinitely. I don't think it's going to happen at all. The judge is actually reasonable. They know it's got to be selective prosecution, and that we know, especially after what happened with Biden and his whole investigation. He obviously broke the law. He obviously willingly misused those documents far more than Donald Trump was proven to do so. And what exactly happened? Well, they let him off with a slap on the wrist because he's too old. He's feeble. Why would you prosecute somebody like that? But then why would you make that person president? That kind of proves that Biden's not fit to be president if he was, too senile to be tried, and he's forgetting certain dates, and then he went out there and tried to fight the media. That's not talked about enough, but there's just so much to attack Biden on. It's crazy. There's a lot of crazy things that aren't talked about as much as they possibly should be, but either way, we just got to make sure that we can't lose focus. That needs to be the entirety of what we do between now and November. Go out there, attack Biden where it hurts, and win. That's how we get it done, and that's what I think we've been doing for the most part, but still long way to go. But Donald Trump in Indiana, I mean, it's not like these results really mean very much because the primary is basically over, but he's going to, at the end of the day, finish in the mid to high 80s and possibly set a raw vote total record in the state. So we're about to see what happens, but we're going to go down to some of these other primaries. Like I said, I don't think it's really worth analyzing the governor primary a whole lot because Mike Braun has already won. We know that's the way it is. And like I said, a lot of these voters for people like Crouch and Chambers, they probably are some Dem crossovers as well. So keep that in mind. Now, I will say that there's some other races down ballot. You have several key primaries. You have Victoria Spartz. She's the incumbent, but so far, she's only at 40%. Chuck Goodrich is primarying her out from the right. We'll see if that happens. And then you have District 3. Wendy Davids is in striking distance of Marlon Stutzman. We'll see what happens in that district as well. Then you have the 6th district where you have Jefferson Shreve competing with Jamison Carrier. Aaron Hochin already won the 9th district. Mark Messmer seems to be cruising to an easy win in the 8th, although he had a much bigger lead earlier. The former representative that's running is actually likely not going to win, even if Messmer does go down. He was the first or one of the only Republicans to vote against the Iraq War back when it was unpopular. He is somebody who is kind of a legend in that regard, but it doesn't seem like he's going to be able to pull off the victory as of now, but we'll see. Richard Moss is also decent, and hopefully he can close the gap and beat Messmer, but we'll see. But on top of that, we also have the 4th district here. Jim Baird, the incumbent. It's crazy when Trump is on the ticket, when Trump is at the he's on the ballot, you see this phenomenon happen all the time where you see these candidates in primaries that are facing off against people who are incumbents, who are like run-of-the-mill Republicans. The challengers always outperform when Donald Trump is on the ballot, and more so now than in years past even, but you're seeing that tonight. And Donald Trump, he's doing well. We got a long way to go. We're only 16% of the way through. Not probably going to stay the entire time. We probably go for 2 or 3 hours or so and watch the results pour in, but if you guys want to send in super chats, feel free to send in some super chats. We'll get to the people and kind of see what you guys have to say tonight, whether it's about the primary, whether it's about Donald Trump and some of the new trial developments. Oh, it's not looking too good for the prosecution, or that's what we would say if it was actually a serious trial that actually cared about the rule of law, which it's not. I mean, the testimonies, even from the people that they say are going to doom Trump, the only person they seem to doom is Michael Cohen. I mean, the stuff that actually matters in terms of the meat of the case outside of emotions, that's really not looking too good for the prosecution. But still, when you have a jury that's already biased, you know what's going to happen. You have a judge that will not throw the charges out because the judge is a Biden supporter, is basically put this unconstitutional gag order on Donald Trump. Yeah, it's a big mess, but there's no crime. They've already proven that there's no crime that Trump was covering up. And what we see is that Trump never gave the money. He never is proven to have any knowledge of giving the money. There's no proof it came from campaign funds, because even if he was doing it for campaign reasons, if it's out of his own pocket, it's not exactly a problem. But A, there's no crime. Seems like the crime that was committed, according to Michael Avenatti of all people, was the crime committed by Stormy Daniels herself. So that's also something that's taking place. So like I said, if it was a serious trial, it'd be over by now. Trump would walk. But in a serious country that never would have went to trial, and we know how the jury works. So I'm not going to sit here and say that it's a done deal, or I'm not going to sit here and say that Trump's going to walk, because we know how these things go. But I am going to say that in the grand scheme of things, you can't really say that this is a trial that Trump wouldn't easily win if you had a fair justice system based off of all the facts that are being analyzed at hand. So there we go. And the other cases, we hear nothing out of Georgia. I mean, the prosecutors themselves, they're in a lot of hot water, so they're kind of having to deal with that. I don't really see a case before the election there. And the immunity case, Trump might win that immunity case just based off of the Constitution. And that's something we didn't think was possible a few months ago. You know, I thought it was really just a motion to delay the trial past the election, which it honestly may succeed. But even then, a lot of the charges might get thrown out based off of how the Supreme Court rules. Because it just seemed like, yeah, from the onset of it, we heard so much about how this is all not going to happen. But then you read the Constitution, you see how the Supreme Court justices react to it. Even some of those that are like on the left, they were put on defense. They weren't put on offense, which is kind of telling. Doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be the ones to side with Trump, but I feel like if the 3 Trump appointees do, which seems likely even if they have been letdowns, it doesn't matter what Roberts has to say, doesn't matter what the others have to say, but that could be used as precedence to really mess up the chances of the D.C. trial, A, happening, and B, actually working. So there's that. But still, you look at Florida getting suspended indefinitely. It's huge. You can't say it's not huge because it is huge. So we'll see. We have super chats. Johnny Heart Dog, usually the first super chatter of almost every stream we have. Before we actually go live, he always sends some. And he sent 3 tonight, saying, if Trump goes to jail, will his life be in danger? Working late, I'll catch this when I get home. 7 weeks till I move to Alaska, getting excited. I don't think he's going to jail, first of all. Second of all, I don't think so. I think that he probably is going to have some special sort of clearance or whatever. I don't think that he's really going to be going to jail either way. But I wouldn't say that his life entirely would be in danger. They do have, protocol for high-profile people that end up in prison. But still, he says, I'll catch this later. 7 weeks till I move to Alaska, getting excited. Well, there you go. Definitely a beautiful state, very cold one. But Johnny Heart Dog for 10 says, please don't ever use a clickbait title or thumbnail. Nothing worse than having hopes up only to find it's clickbait. You don't do it, but a lot of conservative channels do. Do you vet your sources? I mean, I guess. Now, not every source that I get or use is always proven to be 100% accurate. There's no source that really is 100% accurate. But do I promote news that is probably, questionable without any sort of disclaimer? No, I don't. I try to view things as objectively as possible. So there's that. And yeah, I do clickbait sometimes, I think. But I mean, that's part of the business. It's not like a malicious clickbait, but you want people to, be drawn into the content. You don't necessarily want to give people too much false hope, but what can I say? It's a business strategy. I kind of can respect it. I respect the hustle. Also, Johnny Heart Dog says, do you think Nebraska's 2nd district will flip? A lot of conservative pollsters have been saying it will. Well, the video I just did an hour or 2 ago shows that it was the liberal pollsters that were showing it. I haven't seen any conservative pollsters out of Nebraska's 2nd, but do I think Trump can win it? Well, if he's really leading the popular vote nationwide and, RFK Jr. is taking votes from Biden, yeah, I think it's entirely possible that Trump would be able to win that district, which would be crucial. And it would also be a middle finger to the Nebraska state legislature if he was able to win it, because it's like, seriously, like, you guys were too afraid to give Trump a win, but he got it anyways. So there's that. It just depends on what goes down. Let's see. Cameron Campbell says, it's my birthday. Can you wish me a happy birthday? Yes. Happy birthday, Cameron. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for giving me a gift on your birthday. Simple Logic 90 for 10 says, I live in the state of Indiana. Mark my words, once Hamilton County shows which way it's going in November, just call the state. Trump will win it within an hour, I predict. Hamilton County. Let's see. Yeah, Hamilton County. That county has narrowed, but I mean, either way, it's something that I don't know if if you see Trump lose it, for example, that means that, oh, well, he's doomed in Indiana. Probably could move left, but Biden, again, he's unpopular. This is a different election. We don't know how things are going to go down. We always hear about, well, the white working class voters are not trending towards Trump as much anymore, but they don't apply the same logic the other way, which in many cases does matter. It is possible Trump rebounds with white college-educated voters in some capacity, maybe not women, but maybe men, and that would be decisive if he's able to do that. And I think he could if he focuses on the things that matter, like the border, etc. Then yeah, I think he could make some gains, serious gains there. Maybe not a lot, but every little bit is decisive. I don't know which way Hamilton County is going to move, but it's true that Biden would have to win it by a substantial margin to have a shot in Indiana, and Indiana is not a state that Biden has any substantial chance to win. So there's that. They still haven't fixed the tabulation errors out of Cassuco County and Vermilion County, but it doesn't quite matter. Trump is going to win this primary fairly easily anyways. So there's that. Let's, okay, we have more results poured in. in the past second, it seems like. Yeah, down by Evansville, the early vote is looking good for Trump in a lot of these places. But still, the majority of the vote that's in right now is early vote. He's going to improve his vote totals as the night goes on for sure. And we'll be monitoring some of these down ballot races as well. You have Victoria Spartz still in a close one. But again, keep in mind, a lot of this is early vote. The more vote that pours in is probably going to favor, one could say, the anti-establishment candidates, just depending on where the votes are pouring in from. Let's see. Merck IWNL says, do you think Trump will announce a plan to reduce housing costs? He should. I mean, you can't afford a home. You know, Trump just saying that is in many ways enough, you could argue, but still. Commander Video says, someone in your server said that Biden is running ads in New York. Thoughts? I mean, it's possible. You know, they get mad at Trump for saying, I'm going to contest Minnesota, where he may actually have a shot, but then they are okay with Biden trying in Texas or even spending money in deep blue states, whatever. I don't know why Biden is running ads in New York. Some candidates just run ads on certain platforms that play for everybody, and there's that. I don't really see a lot of political ads here. I don't really watch TV that often, so maybe I should as we get closer to, football season. Of course, we're going to be getting more of a pulse on the advertisement game for sure. John Waffle H2P says, would you consider Indiana to be a traditional rhino state? No. I mean, they didn't vote for McCain. Donald Trump does better there than most Republicans, even though it had been like a red state before with Bush. But again, black turnout typically was lower pre-Obama than it's been post-Obama. So that probably played a role in terms of Northwest Indiana, parts of Indianapolis, etc. So I wouldn't say, I think it's just a regular red state. I mean, you look and you compare it to Ohio, it's definitely been more evangelical, which is why it's kind of been more Republican historically than a state like Ohio. But it seems like the whole, sectors of religion in certain communities, it's not exactly as much of a determining factor as it really has been in years past. So there's that. Different groups of Christians are starting to vote more and more like evangelicals in a lot of places. White Catholics moving to the right. They used to vote Democrat. Now they vote Republican in many cases and are moving to the right. And you're seeing that all around. Now, there's still obviously exceptions to that. And we know in terms of denominations like Methodists and things like that, usually probably more liberal, but still. Let's see. Okay, Trump keeps gaining. He's probably going to crack 80% soon. He hit 100,000 votes. We don't have any data on Biden's vote totals, but it's not like it really matters. But yeah, we have some counties that are all the way in, and Trump is hitting in the mid to high 80s in literally every single one. And keep in mind, that's with an open primary, that's with crossover voting, you name it. So I'm not exactly going to sit back here and say it's the biggest deal in the world, because if you look at the 2020 primary, Trump only got, 91% as a sitting president. I don't know what the write-in game is going to look like for Biden. I don't even know what total vote share he has, but I'm assuming it's somewhere in the 40,000 range, while Trump's at 100,000. So yeah, a lot of it is crossover voting. That's 100% true. Places like Hamilton County, but also, even Gary, Lake County, Indiana, that is, there's a lot of minorities there for one. They probably are less likely to turn out for primaries, statistically speaking, but Trump's at 86%. That's the early vote, or maybe it's an election day vote dump. But Lake County itself, if you look at the 2020 map, Trump gained there actually, but Biden still took the county by 15%. And these other counties have moved to the right. These counties, I believe, voted for Obama. Not anymore. Donald Trump has rewritten the rules of politics. That's why when he's on the ballot, things go differently for Republicans than when he's not on the ballot, which is a whole nother problem. Base Cat says, if the Joe's memory is shit, you must acquit. Yeah, technically that's how they operate. Like, I get the reference and everything, but yeah, that's basically how they operate. But apparently he's fit to be president at the same time, and Trump is evil and is a danger to this country, despite the fact that, we've seen the past 4 years. It doesn't exactly matter. Per Kayla says, we are going to see Trump at the NRA event here in Dallas on the 18th. My first time going to see him. Wow. Well, have fun, I guess. I didn't even know he was coming to Dallas. But there you go. I know he's going to speak at the Libertarian Convention, which I think is a politically smart move for him to do. James Mudbug Walston says, where am I from? Michigan. From Michigan. Oh, he hit 78. He hit 78. There we go. So if you guys want to send in more super chats, feel free. We have 865 people here. It's definitely not a primary that a lot of people are paying a whole lot of attention to, but like the stream, like up the stream. If you're new, subscribe. We're trying to get closer to 180,000 as soon as we possibly can. We're almost there. We're knocking on the door. But I'll update as we get more intel on some of these other races down ballot that we see. But there's that. But let's go up here. Okay, Mike Braun's at 40% now. So as Trump's vote share increases, his vote share increases. So there's that as well. So it kind of proves that a lot of these people that are voting for Haley likely crossing over to vote for certain gubernatorial candidates because there's no real, competition on the Democrat side. I mean, the Senate race, yeah, but they know they have no shot at that for sure. So they're trying to infiltrate our primary, which is an open primary, trying to get the person that they want. Dylan Allen says chances of Larry Hogan winning Maryland. I would say it's probably like 15%. I don't put much stock in the early polls there, just like I don't put stock in the early polls in Ohio or Montana, just because of down ballot effects. If this was a special election, yeah, it's possible he'd have a shot. Trone is an awful candidate. The candidate running against Trone is also an awful candidate. But like this guy's got a lot of money. He's spending a lot of money like crazy, and he's down in the polls in Maryland to Larry Hogan, of all people, who's a Republican. And it's different if you're running for governor as a Republican in a blue state and you're running for Senate as a Republican in a blue state. There's an entirely different dynamic going on. And as a result, well, you see what's going on. So I don't think that Larry Hogan is really going to pose much of a threat, but he will make Democrats spend money, and he will possibly have some positive down ballot effects as well. So I welcome his bid. I mean, he is a rhino, but if he can kind of help us out inadvertently, I think it's worth him running, but still, he's probably not going to win. So whichever way you chalk it up, I don't see it as a bad thing. And also the one county that Haley was up in, they officially changed, and I was right that, it was a tabulation error. Instead of Haley being up 84-16, Trump's up 84-16, and they have not fixed this county, which I suspect it's, again, the opposite. So there's that. So we'll see what goes on. DeBlio says APAC stooge Messmer wins Indiana's 8th. Well, yeah, I mean, they spent a lot of money on that district, and a lot of people were anticipating that was like I guess you would say, a test of power for some of these donors. And it seems like that's what they're getting right now, which, again, big money in politics in general, not particularly a fan of it. And you're kind of seeing what happens when you have people propped up. And that's the way it is. Now, you could also point to this. Moss and Hofstadter, they haven't called it yet, but they're splitting the vote. If they, teamed up or had one run or the other one run, then it's very possible that you'd see a different result tonight, which is also kind of the thing. If you have an establishment candidate who's going to have a lot of anti-establishment candidates running against him, the establishment candidate might not get a majority of the vote, but still they're probably going to win, which is kind of why some people might talk about the need for runoffs, which there are none in Indiana, but still, like I said, big money in politics against it, period. So there's that. Exactly says, was it good to see a Methodist church in northeastern Vermont stand up to the woke mob and break from the church organization pushing the alphabet mafia? Well, sounds like a rare victory for the Methodists. I mean, we know how they are. They're very liberal. And northeast Vermont, you have the Northeast Kingdom up there. The rest of Vermont hates them because, there's actually like 5 conservatives up there. I mean, that one county voted for Donald Trump in 2020. We could actually pull this up here. And you could see Vermont, I think it was Essex County, that voted for Trump, and it did. It gave him 53.9% of the vote. So already you can see that. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the good part of Vermont. If they joined New Hampshire, I guess you could make the argument that that would be beneficial, but oh well. So, yep. The Rhino Hulk, somebody says the Rhino Holcomb dynasty officially goes down. It's true. Technically true. They're gone. I mean, he's gone. I don't know what dynasty there was before him, but I mean, he's term limited, I believe. Mike Braun is going to step in, and hopefully he's going to be a good governor. I don't really know what he's exactly going to be like. I mean, like I said, in the Senate, he was iffy for, the first half of his tenure, or the first 2 years of it, I should say. Then Tucker Carlson set him straight back in 2020 during the riots, and he's been decent ever since. He hasn't been bad. So, he's an outsider. Maybe he was just learning on the job. He was, basically somebody who never held office beforehand, and now he does, and he's going to hold a different office now. Some people think it's a downgrade to go from governor or from senator to governor, but you upgrade both the governorship and his own Senate seat at the same time. You're killing two birds with one stone. So, yeah, I think it's a very good thing that Indiana's kind of going in this direction with it. Absolutely. And Donald Trump is closing in on 80. We got 25% of the vote in. Trump is at 123,000 votes. If that estimator is accurate, we're about to find out if he's going to break the raw vote total record that he set, which was 504,000 votes back in 2020. It's funny because he actually did better in 2016. That was really a crucial primary for Trump, though. He went out there and he decimated Cruz, and that was the end of the Cruz campaign. He dropped out. Trump claimed victory. That was over. No hope for Cruz. No hope for a contested convention. That was the ball game right there. And Trump was able to go out there and win. And you see what happened. So Patriot 345 says Jim Banks is an upgrade from Mike Braun, and Braun is an upgrade from Holcomb. It's true. That's exactly what I've been saying all night. I think it's a good thing that you're seeing upgrades in both positions. I don't think there's any real disagreement with that, but we are watching the primary results pour in. No other states tonight. It's just Indiana. I think we'll be back next week. Next Tuesday, we have a few more states. These are basically just the end primaries of the cycle, so it's not like there's a lot particularly going on, or there's a lot that's going to be unexpected, but still we're starting to see our down ballot primaries. I mean, we saw a couple. We saw Ohio. We see more here. We saw them in Pennsylvania, even though they weren't really all that competitive or notable, or, there were candidates worth rooting for in a lot of those places because everybody seemed a little similar. So they called it for Huchin, Baird, and Yakim in the 2nd district, who's the incumbent. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. Randy Niemeyer seems to be winning the 1st district. So far, the 3rd district, Andy Zay, that's a very close race. You got 3 people all around 22%. And then Spart still with a lead in the 5th district, but not a massive one. That's still competitive. Jefferson Shreve versus Jamison Carrier in the 6th district. That one is kind of going down the wire, but Shreve is favored as of now. And again, Messmer in the 8th. Right now, he seems to be the favorite. But again, some people say that he's already won, but there's still 63% of the vote left. We'll call it when New York Times calls it, and we'll go from there. So 78.1 for Trump right now. We'll look in the regular chat. We'll look at the super chats. We got a big super chat. BRGRS for $50 says, do you think the ballot initiative to change Montana's elections to ranked choice voting will gather enough signatures to make the November ballot? And have you looked into any of the Republicans that are running for Rosendale's seat? Again, I would have to look at their endorsements as well, because that's kind of telling who's endorsing some of these people for the seat. That's something that can kind of give me a little bit of an insight on how the race is going. I don't personally know any candidate that's really stood out to me as of now, but I've heard other people talk about them, just don't know the names off the top of my head. But I don't know about the signature effort in Montana for ranked choice voting. If it gets on the ballot, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to go into effect. I mean, you're seeing they're already trying to reverse it in Alaska. People don't like it. It's confusing. We know what it can lead to, and it's just a big, big mess whatsoever, especially the top 4 primary, because I think that in Alaska is worse than the ranked choice voting itself because, ranked choice voting, whatever, you have a Republican, you have a Democrat, you have an independent. But if you put Republicans against each other, like you did in the Alaska race with Murkowski running up against an actual conservative, what happened? She went out there and she, in the first round, you could say she didn't hit 50, but ranked choice voting pulled her over the top, and it's a big mess. You need to have primaries. You need to get people out of there, and you need to have a sore loser law, which apparently they don't have. But no, they won't because they have to protect Lisa Murkowski at all costs for some reason because she's a rhino. It's not like Alaska's a state like Maryland where you can live with a Larry Hogan. It's a Republican state who deserves a Republican senator that actually votes like one, and she does the opposite of that. So there's that. She voted more with Obama and Biden than she voted with Trump. I mean, at that point, you basically are a Democrat, even if you did vote with Trump a majority at the time. Explorer Bear says, how will Sissy Spencer Cox do in the primary? Probably well. It's hard to knock off incumbent governors, and he's polling pretty well. Even a Trump endorsement I don't think would be enough to save Lyman, but I hope he does well. I hope he goes out there and wins, but it does seem like it's going to be tough. But at least we got Trent Staggs probably over the finish line in the Senate race, which is absolutely huge. So there's that. 28% of the vote is now in the state. We hit 1,000 live viewers. Everybody like the stream. Let's get to 500 likes. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you're new. Subscribe so you can use the live chat. You can't use the live chat if you're going to be a freeloader, so make sure you hit that subscribe button if you are not already subscribed, and hit the like button as well. Let's get to 500 likes in this stream. And also, make sure to subscribe because we're almost to 180,000 subscribers. It's a big milestone. We're getting closer and closer to the big 200K. And we got less than 6 months between now and the election. So that's a big milestone that we crossed in terms of the country as a whole leading up to this thing. Mitchell Ryan says, do you think that Republicans will lose the House? I don't think so. I think that it's going to be close, but I think they'll probably win. I think Trump's going to carry a lot of people over, and that's going to be enough because a lot of people will talk about how House Republicans are shooting themselves in the foot. But at the end of the day, with Trump on the ballot, they're not going to be the main reason why most people are getting out and voting. You might have a few people that are going to leave the rest of their ballots blank, but still, you probably get a good amount of that on both sides for various reasons. So there's that. So either way, let's check the primaries again, down ballot. So again, seems like Crouch is winning some of these counties down here. Might be early vote. Who knows if it's going to hold, but that might be where she's from. Seems like they haven't called any more of these races. Nothing's really new. The 3rd district keeps going back and forth and back and forth. 40% of the vote is in, and 43% of the vote is in the 8th district. They still haven't called it yet. So there is basically your current update. And I don't know where those votes came in from. Let's check this. Seems like some of these counties down here are reporting. But still, I think they fixed the tabulation error in the other county. Let's see what 79-21 Trump. That's expected. So they fixed that. He's up there. We'll see what happens. Now, nothing out of Indianapolis, which is probably the bluest county. We can go back here because that's where there'd be the most crossovers for Haley. And in Marion County, 63-34. Monroe County was similar, though, so keep that in mind. But there's a lot more people that are living in Marion County. But again, how many of them are likely to cross over in primaries? This is a close one. Tippecanoe County, they have not reported any votes, but still, Some of these counties up here that are Dem-leaning, the early vote is looking pretty good for Donald Trump, so I don't think he's going to lose ground. I think he's going to get in the 80s. Christian News Junkie says, are mail-ins and early ballots reflected first? Yes, they are in many cases, it seems. I don't know if it's like that in every county, but the vote that we saw at the start of the night, yeah, that's why Trump went up from like 73% to 78, 79%. So there's that. Let's see. But almost 200,000 total votes have been cast so far. Seems like the total number is going to cross 600,000 by the time the night is over. On the Democrat side, it's not looking to be all that strong. But again, we don't have, it seems like, any indication of the write-in votes that have not been processed quite yet. So who knows how that's going to impact Biden. I'm trying to find other networks that might try to calculate that. But so far, no, Biden has 51,000 votes total. He's expected to get around 200-some thousand votes, and Trump is projected to probably get around 500-something thousand votes. So there's that. President Biden says, I'll take Donald behind the barn. So true. So true. Thank you. Thank you, Brandon, for that, for the 5. But, we have Indianapolis. Indianapolis is in. Indy is in, and Trump is at 64%. So, again, that's not really all that bad for early vote in Indianapolis. Again, a very blue county. A lot of people crossing over. That's why Haley's going to be getting those numbers there. So, there you go. Kaiser of Third Age says most blue counties are college cities. Trump wins. I mean, yeah, that's true, but I mean, you have to talk about the crossover effect. College students that are Republican will probably be voting for their home addresses. The people that vote like in the campus precincts probably live around campus, so a lot of them may be graduate students, which many of them lean left, and probably are crossing over, or are professors, which the same thing is kind of in effect there. So more counties are filling in ruby red for Donald Trump, and a third of the vote is in. He's at 170,000 votes. So Haley will not take a county of zombie voters, and these votes are probably the best showing that she will have in these counties. Trump will likely get closer to 80% in both of them. So we could probably see if we could pull up the 2020 primary. I don't know if they have the presidential on the Republican side, but maybe they don't in terms of a county map, or apparently they do. But like Hamilton County only gave Trump like 87% last time around, and there were less crossovers. So keep that in mind as well. And I think Monroe County gave him below 90 as well. So that probably was fueled by a little bit of crossover voting, some Republicans, I guess, being disaffected or whatever. A lot of those people probably voted for Biden anyways. Who knows if they still will, even if they do vote for Haley in this primary. So there's that. Let's see. Nothing new. We're just waiting on some of these counties to shift as more votes pour in. They're going to get redder and redder in terms of the Donald Trump red. And we're still waiting on that. But Mike Braun, he's won some of these other races. Hostetler is getting closer, but he probably doesn't have enough math working in his favor to close the gap. Shreve is up. Stutzman is up barely. And Victoria Spartz is now in dire straits because that gap is now 6% between her and Chuck Goodrich. So keep watch of that district as well as the night goes on. But Randy Niemeyer, or however you pronounce his name, Niemeyer, he's at 66. Mackerel for 5 says, what do you think of this idea? Trump pardons and reveals Julian Assange as his press secretary. I think it's not going to happen. It'd be funny, but it's not likely to happen. I'm not going to say it wouldn't be funny. He should have primaried him last time. He may primary him, but he's not going to be press secretary. I'll tell you that much. But yeah. Let's see. Take a closer look at the 3rd district. Okay, it probably is worth a closer look. Oh, we did the Democrat side. We don't care about that. Interesting. The Democrat leading the district's last name is Adolf. That's hilarious. But let's see. Okay, it's down here. Stutzman, Zay, Smith, and Davis. Look at this. They're all close. This reminds me of that Oklahoma primary that I think Josh Brasheen won, or whatever his name is. I think that it's very similar to that, where you have all these people in the mix that are like not getting close to a majority of the vote, but they're just like splitting it. But the difference is Oklahoma has runoffs and Indiana does not. I said primary Assange when I meant to say pardon. Yeah, it's just all the events of tonight mixing in with the super chats. Not surprising to have a little bit of a misspeak. But still, we're 36% of the way in. Now, keep in mind when we're going to be sitting here 6 months from 6 months from Sunday night, and we're going to be analyzing the results that pour in. This is the first state, along with Kentucky, that reports any votes. So we're going to be watching that for the first hour. It's going to be hard to really extrapolate a whole lot based off of what's early vote, what's not early vote, you name it. But who knows? But he's at 187,000 votes in the primary. And there's a lot of time left, a lot of votes to be counted that are going to favor him. We just have to wait and see as they pour in. We got 1,000 people in chat. Hit that like button down below. Make sure you guys subscribe if you're not yet subscribed. We are getting closer and closer to 180,000 subscribers. That is a big milestone that we'd like to hit. Maybe not tonight, but if we can get closer, every little bit helps. Mackerel says, as a Hoosier, wanting Rittenauer and Engling out of the 5th district. I believe that district, I'm assuming you're talking about the state legislature district. I'm kind of confused. I don't see the where's the 5th? I mean, let me check this for a second. Yeah, I mean, those people aren't going to have much of a chance, though, it seems. Seems like they're just too far behind. Goodrich is the only viable one that could knock off Sparts. I don't know if the remainder of the votes that come in are going to benefit Goodrich enough for him to win, but it's definitely a close primary for a sitting representative for sure. When you have strong people, when you have a really strong bench running up against somebody who is not even that new or that vulnerable, a lot can happen. A lot can happen. The problem with our primary challengers, sometimes we don't really have the right focus and don't really have a candidate that is all that viable. Maybe they believe the right things. Maybe they tweet the right things. They tweet bangers or whatever. It's not necessarily going to indicate that that person is viable enough or that they have enough political skill to go out there and win some of these places, which is kind of what we need to make sure we can change. And it's not just these swing districts. We talk a lot about, these open seats, find the best person. It's important to find a good person for them, but I think that the number one focus needs to be in these deep red districts, either the deep red open districts or even primarying out some of these people, because it's insane how you actually have I guess you would say a candidate who goes out there and just doesn't win, or a candidate in deep red district who's been there for a long time, a sitting representative, senator, governor, and they basically are weak and they can afford to be weak, and we don't primary them out, but we focus on kind of the wrong races or our efforts, I think we have to zero in on certain things. I think in terms of some of these swing districts, find somebody who can win the primary and the general, find somebody who's not going to be a total weak pushover. And then in terms of the these deep red areas where we have rhinos, like in Kansas, in some places, Nebraska, Utah, North Dakota, South Dakota, that's a big problem. That's like 10 senators right there. You can get a lot of upgrades if we just focused our time and energy there, but we need a bench to do it. We can't have just some random person that doesn't have any money run. You know, people that really pay attention to Twitter or certain politics will definitely, obviously vote against the incumbents, but they're not a majority of the electorate. A majority of the Republican primary electorate just doesn't know what's going on. They still probably get their news from Fox occasionally, and that's it. I mean, I can't blame people for not caring a ridiculous amount. People have lives. Not everybody's going to devote their lives to politics. You can't really make them. In no society in history has that really been the case. I feel like now we're a relatively high, attentive population into that compared to where we were in years past, and that's had some positive implications, and also in terms of our political opposition, some negative implications, but still. Joins Johnson says, do you think Jill Stein's recent rise among college students will help Trump more in Michigan? Yeah, possibly. Her and Cornell West being on the ballot is a benefit to Trump. Trevor Hintz says, my dad's side of the family is definitely voting for Trump. Could see him vote for RFK Jr. And my mom's side of the family is definitely voting for Biden or RFK Jr. Well, I think you know what you need to do, Trevor. I think you got to get your dad to vote for Trump and his side of the family. And you need to get your mom's side of the family to vote for RFK Jr. Because some people are just too far gone. And that is something that, if that's all, if you could actually convince them to do that, that's still a net vote for Trump in a way. But I will say this. The conservatives that are propping this guy up are doing Trump a big disservice and the country a big disservice. We don't have time for grifters. We don't have time for novelty candidates, because that's exactly what RFK Jr. is. He's a novelty candidate. And we need to be laser focused on winning this election. He's somebody who was a lifelong liberal, has said all these crazy things, liberal crazy things, and now I guess is trying to stop saying some of them. And then conservatives, they care more about validation from people on the left than they care about winning. Like, seriously, this is a problem. We need to make sure that we actually focus on winning, not carry water for people who are hurting us. And that's exactly what we would be doing for giving RFK Jr. a platform. There's no point. I mean, and they're giving him softball interviews. If you are going to give him a platform, don't give him a softball interview. Obviously, if Trump or somebody like that's going to go on CNN, they're going to give him the hardest interview of his life. RFK Jr., if you are going to have him on a show, whatever, for ratings, you need to be making him look bad if you are conservative. Because, embracing this guy culturally is not doing Trump any favors. This is the country's on the line. This is not like it's, both are good and they both have an equal chance to win, whatever. First of all, they're not both equally good. But if they were, like that's not the case. That's not the case at all. Trump is the only candidate that can defeat Biden. It's true. Trump's the only one that can beat Biden. And if you want to beat Biden, well, you only have one option, one viable option. And I don't think RFK Jr. is going to hurt Trump at the end of the day. I think at best for Biden, it's going to be kind of a wash, and that wash may get washed away by the other far left candidates that are definitely going to take from Biden. But on top of it, it's like this guy is, he's going to lose support because people are going to come home. So I will tell people that are considering voting for this guy, you have no reason to. First of all, he can't win. That should be a disqualifier then and there. He can't win. Oh, I don't like the two-party system. Well, that's beside the point. We have a two-party system. Whether you like it or not, you're not giving them a middle finger by helping the uniparty candidate in Joe Biden win. You're not. So I don't know what people are doing, what they're wasting their time on. Buck Hunter 431 says, will you be doing a stream next Tuesday? I believe so. Let me check which primaries are next Tuesday, assuming they have them. Yeah, Maryland, Nebraska, West Virginia. We'll cover it. I mean, it might not mean a whole lot, but we're going to stream. It's something to talk about, something to do. West Virginia, I believe there's the down ballot races as well. Should be intriguing at the very least. We'll watch Trump run up the score. We'll watch Kentucky and Oregon in May 21st. And the final presidential primaries are all on Super June's Day, June 4th, Montana, New Jersey, New Mexico, South Dakota. We'll see how Biden is faring in New Mexico among Hispanic voters, but I think that Biden's going to win the state regardless. So we will be watching the rest of the primaries for sure. I'm not going to stop covering them just because we kind of have a good viewpoint at how they're going to go. I assume Trump's going to get in the 80s in a lot of these states. Probably is not going to get 90. BRGRS says, did you see RFK on Charlie Kirk's show a while ago where he couldn't answer most of Charlie's questions? Well, I didn't see that, but I hope that Charlie actually gave him a hardball interview and not like some of these other people that are just so soft on him. Again, like this is what it comes down to. You have somebody who basically comes out of nowhere. I mean, he's known for a while. Not going to say that he's did any prominence before. He supported Biden in 2020. That should tell you a lot about where he stands. He said Biden's a dear friend of his. He called voter ID laws racist. He supported reparations. He didn't admit the crisis at the border existed until late 2023. He supports child transitioning. He's open to some sort of government-run healthcare system. He's not somebody that conservatives should vote for. And of course, he's going to try to moderate his tone because he's a politician. He's a Kennedy. Just because his family doesn't like him doesn't necessarily mean anything. It's very possible that he's running to spite the DNC, and it's very possible that he's running to be a sleeper agent against Trump. I'm fine with him running so long as he doesn't take votes away from Trump, which is why people need to get their act together and stop promoting this guy. Daily Wire does it. A lot of people do it. If Charlie actually did make him look like a clown, as Top Dog Obedience just said in chat, then good on Charlie. But a lot of people that are having him on their shows are not asking him tough questions. It's like, why did you change your views? Every single view you had in the past year. He had different views when he was running for the Democrat nomination. I think a lot of conservatives at the time maybe were going to prop him up then because it's like, yeah, we'll weaken Biden. I don't really, fault a lot of people for doing that at the time. But now it's a little different. Now that he's running as an independent, you shouldn't be cozying up to him because he's not a viable option. He's literally not. So, and like the only thing he's like right wing on is COVID. That already happened. COVID, it is what it is. Seems like we didn't get vaccine mandates after all in many places in the long run, which again, like I said, do I think that Donald Trump promoting the jab was like a good thing? No, but it's 2024. If you're still going to be focused on that, it largely comes from a place of people not being genuine or trying to stir up drama on Twitter, like the whole DeSantis or bust army, some of those people. And I'm not saying that it's an issue that doesn't matter, but Donald Trump doesn't support vaccine mandates. He said we need to move on in 2022 from the whole vaccine thing. But it's like I could see why he's going to promote the fact that he did that because at the time it was something a lot of people did want. One. Number two, a lot of the Democrats were saying they wouldn't take the Trump vaccine. Ironic how they just fell in line. And three, I didn't exactly get vaccinated, and a lot of people didn't get vaccinated. So I don't think those people regret it. But at the end of the day, I don't think there's a single person that said, well, Trump said I must get it, therefore I must get it. Like, it is true, a lot of seniors that voted for Trump got it, but a lot of them were told by everybody else to get it. They're giving out all these incentives to get it. So there's that. I think a lot of young people on both sides were skeptical. I've met and talked to people on the left who are skeptical. I mean, they don't care about it enough to change their vote because of it, but they were skeptical. They didn't necessarily get it, whatever. I think it's more of an age thing than it is a a Trump thing or a conservative liberal thing, but either way, as long as you oppose the mandates and support stripping federal funding for schools and other places that have these mandates like Trump has proposed, that's all you need. What else do you want Trump to do about it? Donald Trump in 2020, that's a whole nother animal, but people in this day and age just don't care. They care about what's happening right now. They care about the border. That matters more than anything else. I think a lot of people would rather have Donald Trump praise a vaccine from time to time that most people took, even if the praise is warranted or not, than leave the border wide open. I think that that's something people need to understand, and I think that a lot of people do, just like the whole abortion thing. Oh, he's not calling for a national ban. Well, if he did that, he'd lose. DeSantis would have lost based on that fact alone to Biden. Haley probably would lose too because she's all over the place. The base hates her, and she was saying that she wanted to ban IVF before the Alabama thing happened. So there's that. Somebody says, I was forced to get it. Can I still be a pureblood? Technically, no. Maybe you can call yourself half-vaccinated. That's the cope that some of these people use. But, a lot of people got one, didn't get it again. A lot of times it's probably like out of their system anyways. I don't know how exactly it works, but there's a lot of factors for like the whole sudden, I guess you would say, heart attacks and things like that. I'm not going to say there's no relation or no correlation between those two things. It's very possible. But, pharmaceuticals, certain pills that people are on, certain things, a lot of factors for it. It's been going on for a while, but definitely did spike a lot in 2021. We don't see it as much as we used to, so it seems like maybe the adverse effects may be out of the way. Who knows? But no, I don't think people are going to everybody's going to be gone in 10 years, but I do think that, yeah, there are probably some negative effects. It's been rumors about fertility and things like that, allegedly. That's going to have some long-term effects. Might take people longer to, get pregnant or whatever. I don't know. But either way, I didn't get it because I didn't want to get it. And a lot of people didn't get it, and that's a very good thing. Some people were forced to get it by their employers. That's not exactly Trump's fault because it happened under Biden, under Democrat governors. So he always opposed the mandates. That's kind of the thing. He made it happen. It's like you're selling something, but you're not going to force people to engage in it. So, again, I'm not going to defend every single thing, but I just don't think it's as big of a deal as some people make it out to be. I think a lot of the people that do that are just acting in bad faith because, I don't know, their preferred candidate didn't get the nomination. Well, maybe run a better campaign next time around and don't finish in, distant second place in a state that you basically lived in for months on end. That's what I have to say. It's always, Trump. It's the Trump. It's these cultists. It's like, you have people calling the Republican electorate dumb. But if you can't even convince people that you think are dumb to vote for you, then what does it say about you? It says that you're dumb or that you can't even swindle dumb people into liking you. So maybe they're not so dumb. Mitchell Ryan says, do you think Trump will pick Rubio for VP? I saw a ton of people said they won't vote for him because he's an establishment pick. Yeah, it's just not going to, people are going to vote for Trump regardless. He's not going to pick an anti-establishment VP. There's no way. Maybe if he really goes for a wild card, it'd be Tulsi Gabbard. But a lot of these people replace Rubio with Scott. Scott is far more establishment than Rubio. I think it's just an online thing. I really do. Now, is Trump going to pick Rubio? I don't know. I think he's considering Rubio. I don't think the residency thing is really going to be that much of an issue as some people make it out to be because I assume that Rubio is just going to move. He can move. I don't even think he needs to resign. He just moves his residency to D.C. or wherever. So there's that. I think he probably is Trump's best bet for electoral reasons, but I understand why people are a little skeptical. Sam Madsen says, why has Moreno spent $0 so far? Well, I mean, that's the ad placement. That doesn't mean he doesn't have money. That doesn't mean that he's not going to place ad money. So I don't know why he hasn't. I saw that report earlier today. It's a good question. I'd probably ask his campaign that question, but I don't think it means, he's going broke. He's not spending a dime. Personally, I think that he could literally not spend a dime and still win given the down ballot effects, but he's going to be spending money. I'm not too worried about that. We have a long way to go. Democrats typically place their ad buys a little earlier, which we'll see how that affects the race. But again, you look at Sherrod Brown, he's a fraud. Now he's going to try to make these advertisements. He's making advertisements about how I'm going to stand up to corporations that are causing inflation. It's like, yeah, I'm sure that's really the problem. Corporations, yeah. Corporations are totally the problem. Not anything else. Nothing else. It's the corporations, which again, I'm not even like a big business defender. I believe in putting Main Street over Wall Street, messaging like that. I think the right could learn from it in many cases. But in terms of trying to gaslight the public into believing that it's not their agenda that's at least contributed a great deal to this, it's a problem. If you want to talk about COVID spending, Biden will have spent more under his tenure than Donald Trump will have spent under his tenure. And that's with Trump having to basically be forced into a corner into passing the COVID aid for political purposes and many other things. So Zach Webster's his thoughts on Trump polls in Minnesota. It's in play. I don't think he's going to win it. I'm not going to predict him the winner, but I mean, you can't ignore what's going on with the whole Genocide Joe thing. I mean, it's a real problem among young people. And you look at the fact that Biden at this point in 2020, he had a ridiculous slate of celebrity endorsements that were just insane. And you don't see that this time around. In fact, you have celebrities who backed him. People like even the far left rapper Macklemore, who I mean is kind of irrelevant, saying, no, I'm not voting for you, Biden. He released a song about a pro-Palestine song. So I think a lot of it just comes down to the young voters turning on him. And I think a lot of people will boycott celebrities if they support Biden because Biden is kind of viewed to be too pro-Israel or anti-Palestine, even though both sides of the conflict think that Biden is insufficiently helping their side. So like I said, let him fight. Call him Genocide Joe. Call him whatever nickname you want to call him. Campus protests, whatever. So long as people aren't being hurt, it's something that if they want to show their discontent with Biden, show their discontent with Biden. Doesn't mean that I'm going to agree with everything these people say. Of course not, but that's not the point. A lot of these people are crazy people. But the fact that they oppose Biden, even if they're not technically our friends, it's a benefit to us. Let them talk. That's what we got to do. Let them talk. Trump's letting Biden talk too, technically in the campaign trail, and he's tripping over himself. I think Trump gets it now. I think Trump being low profile is something that's helping him because there's less controversy. But whenever there is controversy, it's something that's just so absurd that, like these cases, that people are sympathizing with Trump, which was never the case before. So half the vote is in. Let's check these down ballot races. Any more calls? Adolf won. Not going to win the general, but yeah, Stutzman barely up in the 3rd district. It seems like Spartz has expanded her lead barely, and they've called it for Messmer. Niemeyer is at 66. They have to call that soon. I don't think he's going to win the general, but I mean, you never know. Again, Republicans didn't do so well there in the midterms, but they ran a candidate who really wasn't all that great. And is it possible that Donald Trump is going to improve in these places? Obviously, that was 2020 primary, but in the general, yeah, I mean, in Gary, I could see him gaining. With Hispanics, he's doing better. I don't know to what extent it's going to, carry over the trends from 2020, but it's possible they do, given some of the metrics we've seen. Now, I'm still waiting on write-in votes out of Indiana against Biden. I don't think there's going to be a ridiculous amount of them, from what I understand, because Pennsylvania, probably a little bit more of a factor. But let's see. I don't think Decision Desk, did they have any? They don't have any write-ins. They don't even have any vote totals for Biden, so it doesn't matter. We'll find out eventually. It might not have been a lot. Doesn't really need to be a lot when Biden's the only one on the ballot, but still, even like 5% writing in somebody else is not a good sign. So there's that. It's not like a lot of people turned out, though. I mean, you had 140,000 votes cast against Biden in Pennsylvania, but Trump is over because he had like the same margin, even though Trump's not a sitting president and wasn't running up against anybody. So Base Cats is who are you dunking on first when Donald John America reclaims the White House? I've bookmarked many TDS posts on X to later post their L's. There's so much. We'll play it by ear on election night. We don't want to be too complacent. It's going to be a tough, hard-fought election. It shouldn't be. But a lot of people in this country they're not smart people. And it pains me to say that. Because I don't understand how you can look at the past 4 years and say, well, we need to re-elect Biden. I think you're out of your mind. The economy's not moving at all. The border is wide open. It's not like in terms of the abortion thing, Trump has done his best to put out the fire as an issue. So there's that. So I don't exactly understand why anybody in this country that has a brain would vote for Biden. I know people will because there's a lot of people that don't. That's not to say all of his votes are necessarily fake either, because you have a lot of people in this country who are just complete NPCs. And I'd like to think that number's lower than it was in 2020, and maybe it is, but we'll see. But even then, they're losing part of the left, and it's getting worse. It's not like it's something that's going to completely blow over by the time the DNC rolls around. In fact, the DNC could have a total disaster. Last time I was in Chicago, it was a total disaster. Jonathan RWY says VP Marco Rubio won 2016 state of Minnesota primary, could put Trump over the top. Love to see it. Nah, I don't know if that's going to be enough in and of itself. A primary that happened 8 years ago, I don't think it's going to have the ridiculous amount of impact. But I think Rubio is strong enough with like suburban voters who might be iffy on Trump that I think it probably increases his odds of victory. And Tim Scott, I feel like, is more of a rhino record than Rubio, but somehow gets away with it for some reason. I'm not just saying that it's because, he's of his ethnicity or anything like that, but I think Rubio, is not as bad as people make him out to be. He's improved a lot. Some people might say, well, he's just grifting or blowing the way the wind blows, but I mean, a lot of people in politics are like that. Who as VP is really all that better? Tell me, who as VP is all that better and helps Trump win? Because Ben Carson, they apparently are not considering Carson because he's too old, and you need contrast. And they're not going to consider Haley because she's obviously a rhino. They're not going to want that. I think she actually would be an electoral liability. It's not going to be Vivek Ramaswamy because Trump's not going to want somebody taking the spotlight away. It's not going to be Noam because Trump doesn't want female Michael Vick on the ticket. You already have enough problems with women. You don't need to add more. That's probably more of a problem than the whole abortion thing, the dog thing. That would be a big liability. J.D. Vance doesn't have a lot of experience. Doug Burgum is kind of boring and also has some rhino ties. I mean, he's been more of a rhino as a governor than Rubio's been as a senator since 2016. So tell me who it should be. Somebody who's going to be electorally viable. That's all I'm asking. I mean, Lee Zeldin, that's a valid option. I wouldn't be upset with that. You might make the case, but is he being considered? I don't know. And Rubio probably has more charisma. So there's that. Maybe you could make the case. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard, wild card. But again, apparently Rubio's a neocon who his change since 2016 is fake, but then Tulsi, who voted for Biden, is her change real? I think she's genuine. I think she genuinely believes what she says now, even if she's motivated to spite the DNC. I think she genuinely believes a lot of what she says, but it's not going to be Michael Flynn. I mean, the guy's been pretty much missing in action for a very long time. It's not going to be Ivanka either. It's not going to be Carrie Lake. Trump is not going to put somebody on the ticket that A, is already running for Senate that he's endorsed, and B, has never held elected office before. If Lake goes down, press secretary, maybe. He'll probably be very good at that job. But again, Stefanik's record's far more of a rhino record than Rubio's record. You might say that she's less assuming and that she'll, cave to Trump more. Maybe that's true. But we'll see. I like Byron Donalds. He's an option. I wouldn't fully rule it out. I haven't fully looked into his past either. I know that he did get arrested or something in the 90s, but I don't think that that's that big of a deal, to be honest. Yeah, he was charged with weed possession. You could probably blame Kamala Harris for that on the debate stage, even if it's something that isn't really that big of a deal, in my opinion, in terms of Harris's record. I don't like the whole Democrats are the real tough on crime. It's like, no, don't do that. I mean, being tough on crime is important, but I'm not worried about the residency thing because he could change. So regardless, there's not a single person out there that fits the bill. People that say Doug Burgum, they don't exactly know a lot about his ties. So I think that that's kind of why Trump is angling potentially. That's why I think that Rubio's the front runner personally, just because of the fact that Trump sees him as somebody, I already know this guy, I've known where he stands in the past, probably can't fully trust him, but at least he's been friendly with him and endorsed him over DeSantis and all this stuff. So that's kind of what I think Trump sees. But a lot of the other names I see in chat, it's impossible, A, for it to happen, or B, I don't think that they would add to the ticket much. And that's kind of what the VP ticket comes down to. So, that's just my opinion. We'll see what Trump does. I trust his judgment. People get mad at me for floating names or floating ideas. I'm not the one making the decision, so there's no need to be upset with what I have to say. I'm understanding that people have their reasons for who they support. It's more than acceptable to have those opinions, but it's not like you have anybody that really jumps out at me like, oh, this person's really based and they're really awesome and they're good on every issue and they're going to help Trump win. Because I just can't see that candidate fully existing. So we'll see. Can't be Elon Musk, as somebody put it, because Elon Musk isn't even born in this country, natural born citizen. So he's 73, but you have somebody who's 78, 77, 78, and somebody's like 73, 74. The benefit is you don't have to tee up Carson for the 2028 nomination. And I love Ben Carson. I have a lot of respect for Ben Carson, but A, he's old. B, there's some controversial statements he's made, which I don't really think is that big of a deal. I mean, Pence even had controversial statements. It is what it is. I think lower controversy is probably better. But, it's not like you have to be too scared. You don't want to be running scared. You don't want to be doing that. But I think in terms of what we see from some of these candidates, I just don't see the it factor being there. And in terms of Carson, you watch him in some of these debates. Whoops, I think this fell a little bit. But you watch him in some of these debates. You watch him in in terms of how he was doing some of these hearings during the time he was the HUD secretary. He wasn't exactly all that. And when people see from the debate, they see a lot of the VP. Basically, every time somebody thinks of a VP candidate, they will think of something that either A, they were known for doing like Pence, or B, from the debate. And when it comes down to the debate, I think Ben Carson is probably one of the only few people who might lose to Kamala Harris of all people. So that's kind of it. Harris is somebody who is, in my opinion, very unpalatable, but she can definitely get under people's skin if they're not really the best debater. And we need somebody who can effectively neutralize her. And in terms of the Rubio thing, I don't believe that he would freeze up like he did with Chris Christie, because Kamala Harris is not Chris Christie. He's actually not that bad of a speaker or debater, even though I disagree with much of what he was saying during the 2016 debates. I mean, his feud with Trump was kind of funny. They traded insults, whatever. It's a long time ago. But, I mean, in terms of picking somebody for VP, you have to pick somebody who can expand the coalition a little bit. The role of the VP is not to double down, be super based, whatever. You could find somebody who's decent, who may be more based than they let on. But in terms of finding somebody who's like, oh, well, I agree with this person on everything, chances are Trump's going to survive his term. Chances are he survives his term for one. And that's something that is something that we need to happen. But also, on top of it, the VP doesn't have much of a role. Senate's probably not going to be 50-50. They're probably not going to be breaking ties. And even then, if they're already in the Senate, they're already in the Senate. But in terms of Donald Trump and what the VP's role is. Like, what did Pence do for the first 4 years besides the COVID response, which a lot of the blame maybe gets put on Trump. The COVID response mainly was Pence's thing, and that was something that didn't exactly bode too well. But nevertheless, it wasn't even that egregious. But in terms of keeping some of these characters around, like the Faucis or whatever, yeah, probably didn't want to do that. And you had Pence on the team spearheading it all. So, Manny says, did Shreve won? What are your thoughts on him? I don't know anything about him. It seems like he's favored, but there's a lot of votes left to be counted. Sparts is down to a 6-point lead. This one might even go to a recount in the 3rd district at the rate things are going. But Trump himself, 78%. That's going up. A lot of vote left to be counted. And he's at 300,000 votes. So, Citrus Peppercorn says Doug has money to burn and could fund the campaign. True, but he can do that anyways. I'm not going to lie. The Green Renegade says, I'll consider a hypothetical Elon Musk presidency when he gets his foot out of his rear and acts on his impulses and starts donating to Republicans. He's donated to some, but he needs to do more. I mean, we see what's going on with the whole, again, propping up RFK Jr. He said he wouldn't vote for Biden. Good. All right, that's improvement because he voted for Biden in 2020 and was a supporter of his into some of his presidency. And I'm glad that he's against Biden now, but if you're going to stand with RFK Jr. or even prop him up, you're doing everyone a disservice. And I get it, Elon might not, he's not really sold on Trump 100%. And I think he does, kind of do what Tim Pool did in 2020 and say, I'm not going to vote for him, and then comes home. But still, in the meantime, propping this guy up does not do anybody any favors. It doesn't do anybody any favors. So, let's see. Jeffrey Largent says Trump could move if he picks Rubio. I think Trump needs to pick a loyalist to dissuade any sort of deep state plot. I have no idea who he will pick. Well, if he does that, well, what's going to stop them from preventing him from winning? Or what's going to stop them from taking care of the situation in terms of how they'd view it with the VP? It's the same concept. That's kind of why I don't think the VP is really all that relevant. But you need somebody who's not going to be an active backstabber. That was my concern with Kristi Noem back then, is because she's been an active backstabber to her own party in South Dakota. That was before she decided to implode and go off in these tangents about meeting Kim Jong-un. Then she didn't meet Kim Jong-un. Then she did meet Kim Jong-un. And her dog situation, which she keeps talking about, it's got to be intentional. I don't know why she's doing this. I guess she just really didn't want to be VP. Well, seems like she's going to get her wish. So be it. Noam also had an affair with Lewandowski. Yeah, I've heard the alleged rumors, and I think there's a lot more people than just Lewandowski that I've heard them about. And I think you can do your own research on that. But yeah, I've never really liked her ever since Fox News was propping her up in 2020. I'm like, why are they doing this? Why are they propping her up? Everyone that Fox has propped up, that's a lot of these people have just, caved. Same thing with Nikki Haley in the early onset of Trump's presidency. They were propping her up, making her look like some sort of hero of sorts. But then everybody kind of gets the picture now, and she's basically dead to everybody. Same thing with Noam. I mean, Noam, those concerns that I initially had were kind of out in the open by 2022 anyways, but now it's just worse and worse. All she does is oppose or call people that oppose her, oh, you must hate me because I'm a woman. I mean, that's basically Hillary Clinton logic. And Nikki Haley does the same thing too. It's a pattern that we can see, recurring theme. It's like, no, they don't hate women because they're acknowledging the fact that you sleep around, allegedly. Just like you don't hate men if you acknowledge the fact that some Republican male politicians or even just male politicians in general do the same. So, whatever. Either way, Trump keeps gaining in real time. What about Ben? We already covered the Ben Carson thing, but like I said, too old, too soft-spoken. Nice guy. Highly respect him. I think he's very intelligent. He's a role model for a lot of people. He separated twins at the brain, And that's, it's impressive. And I do think that in 2016, for a while, he had a good run, but it kind of caught up with him for the same reasons that I'd kind of be worried about him being on the ticket now. So there's that. Now, again, like I said with Burgum, personality-wise, kind of boring, which isn't a bad thing in and of itself for VP. But I think that it kind of comes down to the fact that he's just he's a big tech guy with big tech ties, and he kind of has done some of the things to his own state representatives that Noam's done to hers that are actually conservative. So it's kind of concerning whether he supports Trump or not. I'm glad he supports Trump. I'm glad he could bring money to the table. But again, in terms of his standing in the party, it's kind of just like, it reminds me of a repeat of Pence, but there's really no need to do that. I just don't know. The Green Renegade for Tense is what made me mad is that Cricket's revenge stopped Noam, not the fact that she tried to lock down South Dakota or the fact she tried to primary conservative legislators in the legislature. Hypocrite. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I've called her out for all those things, but a lot of people just don't know about that stuff. And now they clearly can see that she's just not a mentally stable person. I mean, some guy prank called her on Prank Dial, and she had him arrested the next day. This is the type of person that you have running South Dakota, and somebody who was close to the VP shortlist. It's not talked about enough, but I've been the one talking about it, and it needs to be talked about because she's a snake. I've never really liked her, and now I feel vindicated. And historically, besides her re-election bid for governor, she has not really been a very solid electoral performer either. I mean, she's underperforming, barely winning in 2018. I mean, yeah, she's running against more like center-left Democrats that are actually kind of moderate for Democrats, but it doesn't matter. You shouldn't win by 4 points. So that's kind of what it comes down to. Citrus Peppercorn says the only thing a VP needs to do is beat Kamala at the debate. After the election, they sit and look pretty. Exactly. That's what they need to do. And I think the number one argument in favor of Tulsi is probably it would be epic to see the rematch of her go up against Kamala. And I think that anybody that has qualms about that ticket would probably not have qualms about the ticket after watching Kamala Harris get destroyed by Tulsi. But again, like I said, Tulsi's a very wild card type of selection. Jeffrey Largent says, by loyalist, I mean someone who isn't a full rhino. I'd be fine with Rubio, skeptical of Burgum, Scott, and Stefanik, but they're not the worst either. Agreed. I think that's the sane take to have on this matter. Donald Trump picking somebody that everybody likes. Like, we go through it all. I've just really refused to see anybody that's better overall than Rubio to be a viable choice on Trump's shortlist that helps him win and is not that bad. So I've said this for years. I've said that Trump needs somebody who is going to be not that bad and possibly helps him win, because the shortlist at the time, there were a bunch of people that were not really that good, and I don't really think added much to the ticket. Like, yeah, I don't think if Trump picks a neutral pick that he's going to be doomed electorally, but I just don't think that it's going to give him a boost, and we need him to win above all else. We need him to win so we can fix the border, or we're not going to win an election ever again. So that's what it comes down to. Everybody's got their gripes with everybody, and they have the right to have those gripes, but it just doesn't matter. We have to be pragmatic. We have the system that we have. We're not going to be able to blow it up based off of whoever Trump picks for his VP. The problem with that is if you pick somebody that's too based or whatever, maybe it's going to blow up the ticket for the wrong reasons. And that's kind of what we need to steer clear from, because we need to win and we need to get things done. So we'll see. No, it's not going to be Lincoln Chafee. It's not going to be Tom Cotton. Tom Cotton, again, you talk about a neocon. It's true that he's strong on the border. He's domestic issues is not a bad senator, but when it comes to foreign policy, he's one of these war hawk neocon type of guys, and that's not somebody I really want on Trump's ticket. At least when it comes down to Rubio, he's got a track record as a neocon to a certain extent, but did he talk Trump out of military action in Venezuela? Yeah. I mean, he's basically a Secretary of State for the Western Hemisphere while Trump was president, and he definitely, if he was really all that owned by the the donor class, neocons, defense contractors, more so than most other Republicans. Why did he talk Trump out of military action in Venezuela? That's what I have to say. People are saying Youngkin, he's intriguing, but at the end of the day, I don't think he's going to leave his post. I don't think he's on the short list. I think he has 2028 ambitions and is angling to be the establishment candidate, which I said from the get-go. I wanted him to win in Virginia. He did win. It was great that he won. I was right that he would endorse Trump and not be like some of these other people that sit out the election that are governors of states. Like, obviously, we saw that with Larry Hogan twice, and we saw that with Phil Scott up in Vermont for obvious reasons. I think he endorsed Biden. He probably endorses Biden again, but that's expected. So, yeah, BRGRS says Tim Scott is a clown and loser. He would be as bad as Pence. Yeah, I mean, at least Pence never actively subverted Trump's agenda while Trump was president, to my knowledge. I mean, Tim Scott did. The First Step Act had a lot of nonsense in it. Not going to say that there weren't provisions that are positive. I talked about this last stream. You know, obviously, if people do their time and in terms of their chances in the job market, I think that, yeah, they should probably be allowed to not have their past, if they've actually done their time, affect their employment, depending on what exactly the job is. But in terms of letting people out onto the streets that have committed crimes in the past, yeah, it's going to lead to more crime. It doesn't benefit anybody. They're just going to go back to where they were before. It doesn't mean there weren't good things in the bill, but I think that the version of the bill that passed was not so good. And that's the bill that Kamala wanted as well. But also, you know, some of the other things Tim Scott did, rejecting judges Trump was appointing because, they weren't racially sensitive enough. Yeah, this guy is supposed to be a Republican, but he's basically an SJW. And people call me all sorts of names just because I mention these things, because I don't know. They have to protect their boy. But then, again, what can I say? Base Cat says Jimmy Dore says leftoids go by the 4 W's in their victimhood retort: woman, wacism, wabelism, and washa. I mean, technically true. I mean, Jimmy Dore's a leftist himself, or liberal, I guess you would say. But, I mean, that is a large part of it. I mean, it's deeper than that. It's kind of a surface level analysis of it, but Mike Castle for VP, so we flip. Yeah, it's not going to be like I've joked about Scott Walker because it could be somebody that out of left field. Trump puts him on the ticket, but I don't think he's like even close to Trump's inner circle. But I've heard from high up sources, and you can say that these sources are full of nonsense, and that's fine, but they might be. But it's not like I'm just pulling this out of thin air, because this is what I've heard, that if Rubio was not from Florida, it'd be a done deal by now. So I think he's still weighing certain options. But keep in mind, this is based off of Trump's own judgment, assuming what they're saying is true. So we'll see. But you're not, like I said, you're not going to get another Trump as VP. You're not. I mean, people need to understand you can't even have 2 Trumps in the same ticket because they're not going to work well together. When you have 2 like alpha dogs like Trump and Vivek on the same ticket, 2 outsiders, 2 people that are really good on the issues, at least, I mean, Vivek is evolved a lot recently, but it doesn't exactly seem like it's going to be a well-rounded ticket, because that's kind of the point of the VP. They're supposed to complement them well. Maybe not based off of politics, but of who they appeal to, what their personality is. That's kind of what it really is going to make the difference up. What about Rick Grinnell? Yeah, I don't think putting a gay guy on the ticket is going to do Trump any favors. And that's also a problem with Tim Scott, because we know. And I don't think it's going to be Tim Scott. His relationship status is a little bit weird. I mean, you have a guy who ran for office claiming he was a 50-year-old virgin. Something's wrong. It's not like you're waiting for religious purposes at that point. It's because there's something objectively wrong. Either you just have an absurdly low amount of testosterone, or you are not a heterosexual. So there's that. And he kind of does have that vibe. Now, him as a surrogate, one thing, but you know the memes are going to, like I said, same thing with Noam. You got to pick somebody who's not going to really inspire a lot of negative memes. You didn't really see that much with Pence until he actually got in office and people got to know him more and found out about some of the weird things he does. So, like I said, kind of err off the side of something that's going to be the focal point because it's a distraction. You don't want people talking about Tim Scott's personal life. You want people talking about Joe Biden's failures. That's what you want people talking about. Zachary Stewart says, can't believe McCain lost Indiana. Look at it now. Yeah, I mean, it's true. Now, this is not the general election, but we know. Citrus Peppercorn says it's going to be a boring man or attractive woman. That's how Trump works. Well, I think you're paraphrasing what Styx has been saying about it, and I've listened to some of his analysis, and I kind of understand what he's saying, but even then, I think it depends. I think he wants somebody who's not going to steal the spotlight away, but somebody who's going to be defending him. And I feel like if a woman is more assuming or whatever, that he'd be more, I guess you could make the argument there. But honestly, I think it's deeper than that. I mean, you could have somebody who's like kind of a boring pick, but also can bring a little bit of fire. I think Trump's weighing a lot of different things. I think it's a very black and white way of looking at it, but we'll see. Let's see. I know Tim Scott is like engaged. Maybe he did get married. I just didn't hear about it. But it's pretty weird, the circumstances of the whole thing, isn't it? Like, let's be real. Obviously, I'm not going to sit here and say it's a confirmed thing. I don't know what goes on in his personal life, but either way, it's something that's going to be a meme that's going to be talked about that we just could obviously avoid. And that's on top of all the other problems. Because if that was the only problem with Scott, personally, it wouldn't be the biggest deal in the world. But there's a lot of problems with him. Look at his track record. I mean, here's a guy who ran against Trump in the first place. Trump, I mean, Burgum did too, but I think Trump is going to take some of that into account. A late endorsement is still better than somebody who didn't run, period. Because it's just the way it is. I know it can't be someone from Florida, but people can change residencies. You could have made the same argument for Cheney back in 2000, and he changed residencies. Real dark horse is Devin Nunes. I don't know, possibly. I don't know what he adds to the ticket, but he is, I mean, maybe you could say he has some Hispanic appeal, even though he's technically not Hispanic. Well, Portuguese, technically it is under the designation of like white Hispanic in the census and stuff like that, but I don't know. Like I said, don't get mad at me for floating different ideas or having certain opinions. That's Donald Trump's decision to make. I'm just reporting what I understand, looking at the lay of the land right now. It's going to be, yeah, exactly. It's going to be somebody that a lot of people are going to call a rhino or owned by the donor class or whatever. I mean, that's just the way it goes. That's kind of what Pence was. I think you could argue Pence helped Trump win at the time. Maybe not helping him out a lot in 2020 by then because people knew what they were getting with Trump. But I think at the time it helped Trump win because he had a lot of people that were, a little skeptical. They didn't know anything about Trump. How is he going to govern? What is his track record like? The base wanted Ben Carson or Chris Christie of all people. They wanted somebody that was a double down option, but Trump went with this other guy. And I think electorally speaking, it helped him, but he's not going to do the same thing now. So, exactly. It's not going to be somebody exciting or that the further echelons of the base and the internet are going to love. As much as I would like him to pick somebody for VP that would be that, it's just not realistic. So we'll see. It's up to Trump. It's Trump's decision. I'm not making the decision. Why not Mike Garcia? Because he's running for re-election in the blue district. You don't want to get him. I agree. Somebody like a Mike Garcia type would be ideal. He's got a pretty good voting record for being in a Biden plus 13 district or whatever, and he is he's an individual with a very impressive resume. And I think he does probably have some Hispanic appeal, veteran appeal as well. I don't think Trump just picking somebody who's Hispanic is going to help him gain, but there's levels to this stuff. Ted Cruz probably wouldn't help him out with Hispanic voters, but somebody like a Mike Garcia might be able to because he has proof doing better with them electorally speaking. LinRx52 says, who is your ideal VP pick? Like I said, they don't exist. I think that of the realistic choices, I see the strongest case for Rubio. That's just the way it goes. Unless you could find me somebody on his short list that's better, but I don't see anyone on the short list that's better. All things considered. Now, maybe you want to say that Trump should expand his short list, then be mad at Trump and not me. So Sam Madsen says, why is Trump doing uniquely poor in Indiana of all states? I think it largely is because a lot of the vote in a lot of these big counties is early vote, for one. And for two, there was no real Democrat primary. Democrats are going to cross over, infiltrate the Republican primary for governor, for plenty of other races, and that's going to kind of have some impact. They called Victoria Sparks the winner. They have not called, this is still razor thin in the third. Shreve leads in the 6th district, but they haven't called it. I think Shreve probably wins. I don't know much about him, but I'm just reporting the data. Citrus Peppercorn says, will marry and keep Trump under 80 tonight? Well, there's half the vote that we don't know. Depends on what's out there. Boone County only being at 68. That's, 89% reporting. That's not exactly the best performance. But again, do I think it means much for November? No. This race is over. Look at Trump's performances in the zombie vote in the primaries in 2016. He's doing a hell of a lot better now. Not even close. But it's like he did better in Wisconsin's than Indiana's if this margin holds. But like I said, getting close to 80, it's probably where he's about at right now. Obviously, the Democrat side, there's write-ins, but we don't know exactly how those are going to shake out as of right now. So there's that. I just don't understand. Just don't understand why people read too much into these things. I get it, but percentage is not the main factor. I think it's mainly margin, and Trump is still on track to get around 500,000 votes. Biden is on track to get let me see what NBC has him at right now. Yeah, NBC has Biden at 120,000 votes. He's probably going to end up with 200,000 total. So do the math. It doesn't even count write-ins that could be there or whatever. But you look at it, Trump is doing a hell of a lot better than Biden and Haley combined. But apparently it's over for Trump. Even though it's not like any of this matters, and there's a thing called crossover voting and whatever's going on. So some people say John Fetterman. Honestly, it'd be an interesting ticket. All things considered, if Fetterman actually did join the ticket, I mean, who knows? I think it would probably help Trump win. Honestly, if he did it, it's just not going to happen because Fetterman's so much of a meme. And if he was actually on a serious path to defecting from Biden, which he's not, but if he was serious about his transformation and defecting from Biden and he endorsed Trump, yeah, Trump wins Pennsylvania, he wins the election, it's over. There's nothing else to it. So yeah, John Fetterman would probably be the most electable VP for Trump based off of that fact alone, but it's not likely going to happen. It's not. I think you might see a couple defectors. Trump is kind of baiting Henry Cuellar with the whole indictment thing. I don't know if it's going to pay off, but we'll see. People were upset. Why is Trump defending a Democrat? It's maybe he's actually just trying to play the business card and see if he can nab an endorsement out of the ordeal. I know he already endorsed Biden, but what if he switches? That's a real possibility. So I think that's kind of what Trump was getting at. But still, yeah, Fetterman, he's kind of just, his aesthetic is kind of based. Maybe not with the whole, maybe he does need to put on a suit or something if he wanted to be Trump's VP. But in general, I really think that Fetterman being on the ticket would be funny. And I think that I think you could make the case it would be the strongest VP pick in that reality. It's just not the reality we're in. Make no mistake about it. But I think that he's just so likable now among certain people on the right that they just forgive him for whatever past stances he's had. So Trump try to find a primary opponent for Chip Roy. Yeah, Trump doesn't like Chip Roy. And Chip Roy doesn't like Trump. I think that's the right way to put it. And it's weird because Roy is somebody who has a pretty solid voting record on paper on most things, but then in action, he's got TDS. He's kind of just lost his mind with TDS, and that's kind of his number one limiting factor in politics because it kind of can affect his judgment in a way that's just not acceptable. Okay, Trump gained even more. So District 3 is still razor thin. Let's see. Yeah, it is razor thin, 82%. We'll probably not even get a winner on stream tonight. We'll know tomorrow. But yeah, open primary, Dem crossover for governor candidates, gubernatorial candidates. Like, that's pretty much it. Apparently, Blumph is over because he's not getting 95% of the vote in every state. Okay. Whatever. He's still getting 500,000 votes. Like, the raw vote margin's what matters more. Biden's getting less. I mean, half the Haley vote probably does vote for Trump at the end of the day. The other half was probably never with Trump. So it's kind of something that's not worth arguing a whole lot, but you have a lot of bad faith, concern trolls and whatever. They're going to take this and they're going to say, well, this is proof Trump is weak. It's like Indiana. It's this Trump country, first of all. So do what you will with that information. He got the same margin he got in Wisconsin. If anything, it just kind of proves my point. Citrus Peppercorn says, who did the Dems put up in 28? Kamala, Peter, a dark horse? Like, I don't know who that guy is, but yeah, I mean, Pete might run for it. Kamala definitely is going to run for it. Newsom, I think, is going to run for it. You have a lot of people. I don't think that Gretchen Whitmer is all that strong. I think she would bust in the national stage. Josh Shapiro's overhyped. It's possible that John Ossoff loses re-election, and if that's the case, I really don't think he's going to go for it either. So there's that. Chicago is MACA country, especially during a blizzard. Yeah, it's actually been over 5 years since that incident happened. I remember, oh man, they actually took the bait. I can't even believe it. They actually took the bait. But, yep, Trump's almost to 400,000 votes. We could do the math, even assuming that the total vote share remains the same, which I have my doubts. But if you divide it by 0.72, yeah, he'd get 500. He'd get more votes than he got in 2020 in the primary. He would probably get close to his record that he set in 2016. But that was a really competitive, expensive primary, and that was the dagger in any hope they had to stop Trump. That's why this day in history, or at least this primary in history, is so crucial, because that was the dagger in the GOP establishment that day. They've never been the same ever since then. Anthony Solomon says, thank you for the coverage. Well, thank you for the super chat. But, yeah, I wish Trump would endorse Brandon. Yeah, I also wish Trump would endorse Brandon Herrera. I don't know what he's waiting for. Like, the bottom line is apparently the concern Trump has, first of all, what's good is he's not endorsing Gonzalez. He's not going to just give him an endorsement to boost his endorsement record, so that's good. But apparently his concerns with Herrera are that he would lose the general election, which it's like a district Trump's going to win by 10 in a presidential year. Obviously it's not really a valid argument, for one. And for two, he believes that apparently Herrera mocked his son, which he told a joke or said something lighthearted about Barron Trump being tall, which he is. He didn't mean it in a bad way, whatever. But I think that those are things that are getting in Trump's ear from some people around Trump. I don't know who they are, that are trying to get Trump to stay out of the race and not endorse Herrera. So again, I don't know what he's waiting for. If he knows the actual truth behind what's at stake here, I don't think it's a bad endorsement. And even if it lowers the odds of us winning the seat by 10%, I think that the general trade-off is far worth it. This is not a midterm year. If it was a midterm year, you can maybe make the argument. We saw that in many cases with certain people like Majewski in Ohio and Kent in Washington. And a lot of that really came from the divisive primaries in case of Kent, and also the just general campaign that Majewski ran, but also the scandal as well. But still, that's like irrelevant to what's at stake, because at least Texas has a strong party. I mean, even Ken Paxton won by pretty much the same margin that Greg Abbott won by. The only difference was really South Texas, because of the ancestral Democrats that voted for the Hispanic candidate, but probably voted for Abbott at the top of the ticket, probably going to vote for Trump in 2024 this fall. So citrus peppercorns, as if Dean or Marion actually did ballot access, Trump would have better margins, maybe. Because, I mean, you probably have less crossovers if you had other people on the ballot, yeah. Merck IW analysis, does this election give more of a 2016 or 2020 feel? 2016 for sure. I mean, it's weird. In 2016, you had Trump, who at the time never held office, faced somebody who was never president. Then you had Trump as president running up against a career politician, kind of like how he did before. And now you have Trump, who's not president, running up against a sitting president. So you have basically all three possible outcomes for any election in this modern day. And it's a little bit different. It's not going to be one-to-one correlation with 2016. And also, unlike 2016, Trump is the favorite, which puts him in a unique position. So it depends how you look at it. I think that 2016 is a better comparison. I did a whole entire video about that, 15 minutes long, comparing the, two circumstances. And a lot can happen. I don't want people to be complacent. I'm pretty much, honestly, if I'm going to be honest with people, I'm going to say I'm very terrified about this election. Not because I don't think that Trump can't win or that I don't think that he's the favorite or anything like that, but because if we take our foot off the gas, it's going to cause a lot of trouble. So we need to do our part. And if we act smug like we did in 2020 or 2022, I should say, yeah, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. We're going to be in a lot of trouble. So, yeah, I don't think the Trump Kanye ticket, even though it was a joke to begin with, now it will never. That's never going to happen. I don't even know what to make of Kanye at this point as a person. He's somebody who objectively makes music that is well put together, whether you like it or not. I mean, he puts a lot of effort into his stuff, and even if you don't like his music, you could acknowledge that it's well made. I mean, just like I could acknowledge classical music is well made, and I don't really listen to classical music. But at the end of the day, he's clearly got some sort of screw loose or two. And he's flip-flopped on a lot of different things, taken a lot of controversial stances on everything. And, he's still kind of uncancelable in a way because of his music, and he has a cult following behind his music. But, he's always said out-of-pocket, insane things. I can't really get worked up about literally anything that he has to say about anything at this point. Now he's apparently making pornography, which he was railing against for, the past couple of years, and he was making a lot of salient points about it, even if he was making a lot of points about some other stuff that was, a little bit too out of pocket. But either way, he's, politically speaking, he's not even running. He was going to run, apparently, as an independent. I think it's funny, the whole controversial meetup with Trump that people try to blame Trump for, which I think is a little bit ridiculous. Apparently, he asked Trump to be his VP, and Trump was not too happy with it. I think that he insulted Trump's intelligence or whatever. But people got mad at Trump for Kanye appearing. It's like, okay, you have somebody who's like a fellow billionaire celebrity who asked for a meeting, and what are you going to do, say no? I mean, I understand, but it's not like you have to anticipate Trump to follow every little, I guess you'd say, tidbit of controversy that Kanye's getting into to say that, oh, this is Trump's fault or whatever. And as for the guest situation, it's not like Trump knew about that either. So, whatever. I mean, that was like the biggest PR crisis for Trump. Well, maybe not because of the midterms, but since 1/6, one could say, but it blew over as everything else does. He rose in the polls like every other time that he has controversy. So whatever. But yeah, there's not going to be a Trump. We could talk about the meme VPs and people are putting, Antonio Brown. That'd be a much better pick, actually. Antonio Brown, you get Pittsburgh. But yeah, Antonio Brown's funny. He also is out of pocket, but it's like just funny. It's not even like in a political sense. He's definitely suffering from some brain damage and he's self-aware about it. And yeah, he's kind of a troll. But, you know, he has a big reach. And if you're going to have somebody with a big reach that promotes Donald Trump, why not? So there you go. Let's be real, he's uncanceled. Yeah, I mean, a big part of it, if Kanye was white, he'd be a lot more canceled. There's no debate about that. I mean, you can get away with certain things if you have certain, classifications, I guess you would say. Look at women, even women, for example, their prison sentences, much lower for the same crime. That's just like objective. It's not even like they commit different crimes. You look at the same crime, same criminal history, their sentences are a lot shorter. Unlike with different ethnic groups where when you adjust for all the factors, it's pretty much identical. So, and maybe now it would change because of all the DEI legislation that we're seeing. That's kind of destroying our social fabric in one way or another. But I think that the tide is turning and a lot of people are kind of coming around to that realization. And I think that if Trump wins, I think you can attribute a lot of that to the culture being less woke now than 2020, where it was getting more woke. And I'm not saying that we've fully turned the corner. We have a long way to go. But yeah, even if Elon doesn't endorse Trump and Trump wins, I think you can credit Elon just for his purchase of Twitter, because that's definitely done a lot. Citrus Peppercorn says, would it actually be good if Trump went to jail for a day for the gag order? Oh, probably. That's why they're not going to put him in jail. They give him a measly $1,000 fine. And the trial is probably going to be over by the time the fines keep increasing to the point where they would put him behind bars. Merchant came out and said that he doesn't want to see Trump in prison because Trump, quote unquote, is like a president of the United States. And he said he might be the next president of the United States. So looking at that, it's like, yeah, I don't think even if he gets convicted, he gets jail time, because I think they understand the optics of it are too much of a political gamble for them. And they just want to make his life a living hell so they can say convicted felon Donald Trump, but he's on the campaign trail. Yeah, he's not going to be behind bars. I don't believe so. And honestly, there's a good chance that the jury does become a hung jury. It only takes one juror. Now, it is true you have a jury pool that is very biased. I'm not saying that it's not, but at the same time, maybe deep down, one of these people could just wake up and realize that the case there's no case, and they could hang the jury. Or maybe the plan is actually to get Trump acquitted, so then they could say, look, Trump, you're not a victim. Now, that might be out there. That might be one of those theories that is a little bit too hard to believe. But either way, look, I think it's going to be a win for Trump regardless of whatever verdict, because they've already put themselves in a corner. If Trump gets acquitted, it's a waste of time, waste of taxpayer money. It blew up in their faces, even though they would basically have the perfect venue for the trial to go the way that the establishment would want it to go. B, what they could do if they convict him, but he stays out of jail. Well, he stays out of jail and he still can play the victim, just like the mugshot. See, if he goes to jail, it's a big, big mess. Big mess. Yeah. Let's see what chat is saying. We got some more counties that haven't come in yet. Let's check the congressional races. They still have not called. They called it for Shreve. They've not called it the 3rd district. There's no new votes in. 7th district doesn't matter. I mean, that's a deep blue district. This one might be flippable, but maybe in like a Republican favorable midterm, it'd be more likely. But again, Trump is kind of uniquely strong in the industrial northwest of Indiana compared to other Republicans, and it's losing population. So we'll see. Somebody says trans president by 2032, 2036. Look, it depends on how the culture war goes. I think that we've been stopping the bleeding a lot, which is good. And in some ways, we've been turning a corner. But in terms of seeing that, like, would I be shocked to see a transgender Democrat on their debate stage? Absolutely. I mean, a gay Democrat, openly gay Democrat 20 years ago, that would be more unheard of than what I just described with a transgender Democrat by 2028 even. I just don't know who would run. I don't think there's any prominent office holders that fit that bill. You know, they don't do well. Even in Vermont in the blue wave year, you didn't see that candidate do well. So either way, what does it tell you? It tells you that people deep down, whether they want to express their opinion or not, they're not really cool with it. I think that people would be okay, maybe not like in terms of a presidential level, but like, yeah, Colorado is a gay governor. It's a little different. It's a governorship. A lot of people that voted for him may not have even known that. And even then, I think that the public perception of gays in general is a little bit different than it is for, obviously, some of the other alphabet letters there, even though one led to the other. And we warned people, and they didn't listen, and we were proven right. So now they're going to either A, agree with us, or B, they're going to have to go down the road of keep kicking the can down the road and try to include all these other groups into that alphabet designation, groups that, like we know, obviously we know there's an effort for the so-called minor attracted, the pedophiles, to enter that community, infiltrate the community. And, you know, what pushback do they get? Some people will point to the fact that there is pushback, but even then, the lines are blurred with things like Drag Queen Story Hour with all these little children, and it's basically like you're combining the two. So it's checkmate. I don't want to hear about conservative indoctrination when look at what these people are doing. Every single political movement indoctrinates in some way or another. We need to educate the public on the truth, including young people. If indoctrinating people, telling young people about politics, obviously not 5-year-olds, I don't think they need to know about it, but they need to just be not exposed to that kind of stuff. That's basically the most you could ask for. Then yeah, in high school, they should be taught the accurate truth in public schools, not all this other nonsense. You know, teachers lean left. That's part of it, but not all teachers. You know, not all schools lean left. I'm imagining that the public school teachers in rural Iowa are a little bit different than the public school teachers in San Francisco. They might be relatively liberal, but they're probably more likely to be conservative. So there's that. And also private schools exist too. If you can afford it, conservative, well put together, well run private school. Yeah. Shout out to Logan AG for becoming a member. Thought he already were a member, but I guess I might have been wrong about that. But Sam Madsen says, when was peak woke? 2020? I think 2021 was peak woke. I think that was probably when we saw wokeness peak. All the commercials had, there's no white men in commercials anymore. Still, to a large degree, but when you look at the picture back then, it was kind of when you started to see the woke wave really peak and maximize, and they're not adding to it. That's not me saying I'm complacent with the current state of affairs, because that's just not true, but they're not adding to it because they know that there's going to be a backlash now. So we'll see. Let's see. The Democrats are infiltrating the live chat, the trolls. Oh, the trolls. This person claims that, Trump cheated on his wife. Okay, well, Biden showered with his 12-year-old daughter. Like, you really going to sit there and try to claim the moral high ground? There's literally no proof of the Daniels affair. In fact, judging from the actions in the court, it seems like if anybody had the affair, it was Michael Cohen that had it. That's why he's paying off. That's why I informed Trump about it. Trump never talked to this woman directly. That was proven. So I'm not saying it couldn't happen. But how dare the billionaire celebrity have like a slightly open relationship? Like, I'm not saying it's moral. I'm not saying it's right. But I will say that to pretend like that's the deal breaker, Yeah, no. Guarantee you supported Bill Clinton through and through. Guarantee you. So save me that nonsense. Save me the nonsense. You think all these politicians, you think Biden's never cheated on his wife? In fact, his wife, I believe, has cheated on him. But, I mean, let's be real here. We already know what Biden does according to his own daughter. So give me a break. I see this talk all the time from a lot of people. And it's the way it is. So they can come in and troll. Let them do what they want. We had a few people last time. But if you're going to say something that's just like blatantly mind-numbing, yeah, you're going to get clowned on. Not by me, unless I'm looking at the chat, but by the rest of the chat. So, yeah, we're delusional for speaking, for objectively analyzing the situation. Okay. Shout out to Ares Takeoff. Don't know who that is, but he's got a verified check mark, so he must be a YouTuber of sorts. You don't have to time him out. You don't have to hide him all the time. I don't know who hid. But timing out is one thing, but yeah, no, we don't need to I'll unhide actually. We'll have a little bit of fun. All right, we don't have to these people are not concerned trolls, so they're actually less destructive. So we'll unhide, you know. There's no need all the time. Timeout is one thing, but okay, whatever. But we're at 400,000 votes. He's going to hit 500,000. He's probably not going to hit 600,000, but we could look at the 2016. What was the 2016 Indiana number? 591. Yeah, he's not going to get that, but that was a uniquely high-profile primary. But he's going to beat his 2020 totals, which he hasn't been doing in a lot of these states lately because he's been spending less time and effort on it. But there you go. It's a weak night for him, but he beat his 2020 totals. Whatever. Citrus Peppercorns is not the best night. Too many crossover voters. Your liberal counterpart's already making a 50-minute video. Oh yeah, we don't have. Yeah, that's a good name. The liberal counterpart. We don't need to name names, but yeah. And you know, it is what it is. Fine. Wants to prop up Biden, admit his bias, do it, but he doesn't do it. That's kind of the main problem. When you try to pass off analysis as objective without bias, even if you're, you know, kind of clickbaiting, whatever, I'd say that I'm probably at the same time more objective, at least for 2024. But still, you know, but still, 2024, I think I've been more objective than the liberal counterpart. But the liberal counterpart tries to claim that they're unbiased. I don't claim I'm unbiased. I think everybody has a bias. You know my bias. We're red eagle politics. We're not blue donkey politics or something like that, and that's okay. I wouldn't want to be. I'm not a Democrat. Fairly right-leaning person. So let's see, what will I do? See, again, this is the problem with these people. What do you do when Trump? I said if he loses, he might lose. Because we know how the country is. He shouldn't. I can't imagine that, you know, in a nation that's experiencing what the nation's experiencing right now, that he'd lose. But if I agree, it's possible. You know, it's why we gotta keep fighting. See, these people want us to be complacent. I don't think we need to be complacent. I think we need to be going on offense. I think we need to be playing, you know, defense in some states where necessary. But the facts of the matter are true. Trump and his numbers have gone up since 2020, where they were already Biden, you know, skin of his teeth, whatever, you name it. Now Biden's numbers have cratered. They've completely collapsed. And you could say that because of turnout and propensity and certain things over the next 6 months that Biden could prevail. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm not disagreeing with that. But that's the thing. I'm just saying I'm objectively analyzing the situation. I'm saying I want Trump to win, which is true. We have to fight hard to win, which is true. We can't be too complacent, which is true. We got to be smart, which is true. But apparently I'm the unobjective one because other people are coming in with straw man arguments and arguments that just don't hold up. Okay. Like that's kind of what it is. Now, I'm aware of the circumstances. Biden will have more money. Biden's turnout operation's probably better, but in the primaries, it hasn't even been that good. So maybe by November, they'll put more effort in with the money. I mean, Republicans are likely going to do the same. So yeah, Over 330 million Americans. There's 1,000 of you here. Yeah, I mean, that's not a lot, but there's a substantial amount of a percentage in this country that watches this channel, or at least has seen a video of mine. We've probably had around, 2% of the country's at least seen one of my videos. It doesn't mean they subscribed or that they'd recognize the channel, but we've been around for a while. Now, I will say that we're going to probably have our largest crowd ever come November, and it's going to be insane, but be better if Trump won. I would admit it'd be a lot better if Trump won, and we have to fight to make it happen. But I think Trump is favored. I didn't say he's a done deal, but he is the favorite. Could I keep the stream up? I think I will keep the stream up. I actually will. Well, let's check. I mean, maybe. I mean, either way, you guys know where to find it. But I think I'll keep it up. Magna Defender 98 says the pro-Hamas protesters are bonkers. They root for a group that probably deletes innocent bystanders as protesters have major brain damage. Yeah, like I said, these people that are protesting on campuses, first of all, they're annoying. You have a lot of the frat boys that are counter-protesting. I don't think that they really feel strongly about Israel. Now, you do have some pro-Israel frats that are, but I think a lot of the counter-protesters, they're just out there chanting Trump this, Trump that. They want Trump back. They're just acknowledging the fact that these people are crazy. They're on the left. They're deranged. But like I said, let them fight. Or at least let them protest, obviously peacefully, whatever. Let them cause enough political damage to Biden and have at it. And that's all there is to it, because, that's what they're doing. They're anti-Biden. And a lot of them probably are not voting for Trump. I am well aware, but it's not just about people voting or not voting for Trump. If you're a Biden voter who doesn't vote for him the next time around, that's huge. He had very narrow margin of error. Taking the results at face value, whatever, 20,000 voters drop off in Wisconsin, Biden screwed. In Pennsylvania, the number's more like 70-some, 80-some thousand. And then you go to Arizona and Georgia, it's 10,000. That's a razor thin. Now, it is true people that voted for Trump, yes, some may defect, but the polls show there's more defectors on the Biden side to Trump than vice versa. So, maybe if Biden was popular, it'd be a different story. But even looking at the midterms, it's not really a telltale sign that Trump is really bottoming out in some of these places. So, let's see. Yeah, I mean, some people are just we have a couple people that just troll every time, and I think they're probably conservatives and Trump supporters that are just having a little bit of fun with their time. But let's see. I'm from Indiana. There's not a single person that supports Nikki Haley. Well, not a single Republican that does. You could tell the Republican heavy counties, and even counties that are moving to the right, there's very few Haley voters. Even in these big centers, big counties that have moved left, there's not a lot. But I'm suspecting that a lot of the Haley vote is crossover. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, some of them are probably Republicans who, never supported Trump, or some that maybe did but will come home to Trump. And you probably have a subsect that just are Republicans who are not quite on board yet with Trump. And some might defect, but it's not going to be as much as people make it out to be, because of the Haley voters. The ones that aren't crossover probably are not going to defect. And some might, but it's not going to be enough of a percentage to make a dent. It's not. So the zombie vote, Trump is doing extraordinarily well with the zombie vote. He's doing better than Biden did in 2020 with the zombie vote. I'm not particularly afraid of it. And if Biden had any contested primary on his side, if uncommitted was an option on the ballot, I'm suspecting that Trump would be in the mid to high 80s right now, and nobody would really be, talking about it. So let's see. Let's see, what's Biden getting? He's getting 100%, but he's not running against anybody. Now, his raw vote total share is less than half of Trump's, not even close. But again, he's not running up against anybody, so it's really tough to kind of gauge it. So yeah, I mean, all in all, in terms of the election, we have a long way to go from now until the conventions. Like, it's true we're 6 months away, but that is a long time in politics, and the conventions are going to be taking place in a couple months. Like, Carter and Reagan were neck and neck, and we know Reagan ended up winning by a lot at the end of the day. So things could get a lot worse for Joe Biden, and things could possibly, rebound a little bit, even though I don't really think there's any economic data or anything on the horizon. And any foreign affairs that happen, there's not going to be a rally around the flag type of thing. So there's that. Polite Rude Guy says you should create an amicus brief for my lawsuit. I don't know what your lawsuit is, so I don't know. President Biden says still holding hope for Ryan Binkley. So true. So true. But yeah, and that's another argument against this, actually, is when Haley was not on the ballot in Nevada, it was just Trump and Binkley. Trump got like 97%, 98% of the vote in the closed primary. So it's not like there's been a lot of defectors overall. There really hasn't been. Does an opposing viewpoint exist at this point? What issues are Dems even? Well, they're running on Trump is evil. We will codify abortion, even though we can't do that. We'll never have the votes to do it. But still, they'll codify it, or they'll try. They'll talk about it, even though basically Trump being in office would have no effect on the issue compared to Biden being in office from the lens that they're viewing it. And like, what are they going to run on? They'll tout economic metrics, but nobody believes them because a lot of that's just COVID recovery. The economy, according to a majority of independents in recent polling, shows that they believe it's getting worse. I mean, they could try to rehash 1-6 in democracy, but I don't think that's a message that really bodes too well. And it's not a message that wins over black voters or Hispanic voters or like the Democrat base. They need to get out and vote. Like, nobody in inner city Detroit cares about 1-6. Like, I hate to break it to Democrats, but they don't care about democracy. They just don't. That doesn't mean that they're voting for Trump, but it means that they're probably going to be less likely to turn out because you're not seeing BLM rise up because that narrative's debunked, and the only civil unrest we have is the Hamas or the Palestine stuff. What's that going to really, in terms of the impact, what is that going to have? They're protesting Biden. They might be protesting some Republicans too, or whatever they view to be their version of the uniparty. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they're, gonna have a negative impact on Trump. Trump is just saying we need like law and order or whatever. That's what he always says, and he's technically right. It works out better to say that when you're not in office than when you're in office. Whether you want to say, oh, Trump's tweeted law and order, Biden's not going to campaign on that because, Biden's going to say Trump was tear gassing the rioters or something because Biden sympathizes with these people. And it's like, I wish Trump was tougher on the riots. I mean, you could argue to what constitutional capacity he could have been tough on them, but, trying to blame Trump for being tough on the riots 4 years ago or not tough enough, that's not an issue that's going to win Biden support. Like, it's not. Especially when a lot of Trump's own base kind of views him to kind of have, I wouldn't say fully dropped the ball per se, but they've kind of view him to be somebody who left a little bit off the table, which is kind of something. So, and that's the way it is. So if anyone wants to send more super chats, we can feel free to send them. We keep the show running with super chats. We hit 1,000 likes. Make sure you guys like and subscribe to the channel as well. So just doing the math here, it seems like Trump's going to get in between his 2020 and 2016 primary showing. And it seems like a lot of Hamilton counties in Boone County, he might hit 70. Seems like he didn't hit 70 in Tippecanoe, but all these are Democrat areas, or at least, swing to Democrat areas for the most part. So can I talk about Project 2025? It's one of their favorite boogeyman's, but Biden isn't like dumb enough to run his campaign on it because he just would seem like a crazy person rambling about something that isn't even directly connected to Trump. It's the Heritage Foundation, and some of what they want to do is solid because they want to, drain the swamp, essentially get rid of the bureaucrats that are in power, replace them with others. But I mean, even then, it's not like it's some, oh, they have a manifesto that has some things in it that are not popular with the public. But trying to tie Trump to that is just bad faith. And either way, it's like, yeah, it's stuff that I agree with. So, yeah, but either way, it's not like, they're going to have, it's going to impact the election. They will definitely fearmonger about it, though. And there's other projects. Project 47 also exists, and they're not directly tied to Trump. They're like some other group that wants to instill more Republican bureaucrats instead of the Democrats that are occupying these places. So yeah, we need to fire a bunch of people. People do it at the state level. Even Youngkin did it in Richmond, Virginia. I mean, Trump needs to do it at the federal level, probably on steroids, though, where it matters more. He's going to have to wrestle with the swamp. They're going to really bite back, but I think that he's had a term. He's learned on the job. He's learned what you can get away with in terms of playing ball with the establishment and what you can't get away with. So Logan A.G. says, thoughts on the Daily Wire. Well, they're establishment conservative media. I agree with some of the people there. I like some of the people there, but a lot of the people there, they're just relatively establishment conservatives. Some of them are like entry-level creators. I mean, people, when they first get into politics, a lot of people, they listen to Ben Shapiro or whatever. It's like one of the first people they listen to. But yeah, he was an ever-Trumper in 2016. He opposed Trump in the 2024 primary, and he is somebody who's a self-described neoconservative. So I have obvious disagreements there. But they're a platform, I think, in general. There's some decent people there, like a lot of what Michael Knowles has to say. Walsh at times, I feel like, has decent takes. At times doesn't have the best takes, but I think that he's better on the issues than Shapiro overall. But again, there were a lot of DeSantis supporters there, for sure. Again, this network propped up DeSantis for how many years? But you look at somebody like Shapiro, even though he's fundraising for Trump and endorsing Trump, which I do give him credit for because he does have a big audience, whether you like him or not, and he's platforming RFK Jr. It's like, what are you doing? You can't be doing this. You're messing around right before the election with these novelty candidates and grifters, and it's not exactly something that I'm fond of. But yeah, President Biden says I'm pro-abortion because only the libs get them. Okay. Let's simmer down. I get it's a troll super chat, and some people have that opinion objectively, but I'm not of that worldview. I think that you got to keep it consistent. It's a horrendous act in general. There's other ways to solve the problem. I mean, you look at the birth rates period, conservatives are the ones above replacement level. It's the liberals that are below replacement level. So I think there's better ways to create more conservatives and control the pie in terms of which demographic is more conservatives or liberal than signing on to something that's just objectively a demonic thing to happen. BRGRS says you should debate Harry Sisson. But why? Like, what's the point? It's content, I guess. Oh, it's content. Well, if he wants to debate, I'll debate. If I try to reach out to him and debate him, he's probably not going to do it. He seems like a paid shill. It's not like what he says is anything that he actually believes to begin with. So, let him do his thing, but he's just a clown. He makes us look good by him just solely existing, just like a lot of these other resist libs. They're like, nobody actually says, I care what this person has to say. I care what Harry Sisson has. Nobody says that. Like, nobody is saying that in general. Does anybody actually care? Even liberals don't really care what these people have to say. They might get their news from, liberal outlets and whatever, but these people, like the Twitter resist libs, they're not really all that influential. They're not. They're just deranged, crazy people who despise Trump for little to no reason. That's the only conviction that these people have. So, no, I'm not too worried about it. I mean, the guy posts a picture of him in front of a skyline, which is in and of itself kind of feminine. Usually the people that do that are women. There may be exceptions, but still, if you look at the picture, you could understand what I'm getting at. And B is like, oh, I'm Gen Z, I'm voting for Biden. And it's just like, it's a template that conservatives just capitalize on, use, and then ratio him for. So I'm not exactly somebody who's opposed to him, having a platform, obviously being in the sphere of politics, because he doesn't exactly make his own side look good. He makes his own side look like clowns. He's kind of like a caricature. And that's kind of what it comes down to. So, yep. Anyways, I think we're going to go for about 5 more minutes. So if you have anything else to say, super chats, whatever, you name it, now would be the time to send it in. Let me check the 3rd district, see if we have a call. And it doesn't seem as if we do, but Stutzman has pulled ahead by what looks to be 2%. I don't think they're making that up in what's left out. And it seems like the areas that are outstanding, he's up in. So, yeah, it seems like Stutzman is going to probably win. We haven't called it yet, but he has a 1,300 vote lead with probably 4,000 votes to go. The votes outstanding are in areas friendly to him. I probably would anticipate he wins it. I don't know much about the guy, but from what I understand, he wasn't the best candidate in the running. So there's that. But Trump, out of the gate, another primary win. It's, again, not really good or bad news for him. It's not the most impressive in terms of the percentage-wise margin, but he did better than 2020 for the raw vote totals. And you do have a lot of crossover votes because Biden didn't have any opposition. So there's that. They're going to do this to say, we got to weaken Trump. But, oh well. LinRx52 for 10 says, thanks for the lives and vids. Love the analysis. Well, thank you for the super chat. And everybody else for all the super chats that have been sent in tonight. I think we can crown BRGRS, was it, for being the super chat of the evening, who sent in the largest amount. But it's not a competition. All support is welcome. Some people that can't support, they come, they talk in the live chat, they keep it going, they like the stream. It's the least that people can do, and they do it, so we appreciate it. If you're new, make sure you subscribe, and if you're subscribed, hit the bell for notifications as well. Yes, Indiana's an open primary. To answer your question, Jason, it is. It's an open primary. Haley would not be getting this margin in a closed primary at this point. I mean, Pennsylvania, she got, 16%? And even then, I mean, a lot of those voters most likely were just registered ancestral Republicans. You could kind of see that because she did best in like Delaware County, Chester County, and she did best in areas that Trump did weaker in the 2020 primary. But still, Trump is doing well. Not doing the best. You could make a case he'd be doing better, but he's not doing bad to the point where you could point at this and say this is a legitimate reason for concern, whatever. So let's see. People arguing about abortion in chat. Yeah, a lot of people get into arguments in the live chat, I guess, about different issues. All right, President Biden. Not going to read that one. Not going to read that. We know what you're trying to do. I get it. Ha ha. But not going to. I don't stand with that viewpoint. I disavow. That one. It's a good thing that liberals view it differently than us, or that probably would get you into some trouble. But they just declared Stutzman according to local media. All right, well, seems like we've gotten all the calls in that we've needed to get in. So we'll go for another 2 minutes. Last minute super chats. If you don't get them in this second, they might not be read. So you have been forewarned. So take it or leave it. We'll be live streaming on Sunday. Probably not on Thursday. Got a lot on my plate this week. But still, the Dem Michigan Secretary of State made it clear that she's the only one that conduct audits in the state. Yeah, it shouldn't be that way. Again, they should be bipartisan. And they should just happen in general. Like, they're not always going to tell you everything. I get it. But still, I mean, who knows? Personally, I think regardless of whatever election stuff may happen on election day, that we need to put ourselves in a position to overcome it, because I feel like given 2020 really close election based off of what's on the books, and to say that we couldn't do 42,000 votes better now, you're really going to convince me that, especially with the RNC cracking down on election integrity efforts, things like that. Like, I'm not apologizing for these people based off of what they may be allegedly doing at 3 o'clock in the morning. But what I'm saying is that we need to make sure that no matter what we do, that it's not a crutch, and that we can actually have confidence in the system, or at least try to have confidence in the system, so people vote. Because if they don't touch the ballots at all, and all the votes are legit, but people are too afraid to vote because they're afraid that it's not legit, that means that the Dems get a leg up on Republicans. And there's a reason why YouTube and all these other platforms have changed their terms of service back to pre-2020, possibly because A, they realize it's kind of a distraction to talk about that instead of other issues like the border, which it is, and B, because, well, if people are talking about how we need to not vote because it's already a done deal regardless and there's no reason, either way, that tells me that it's a psyop in that regard. Not saying that all accusations are psyops, but I'm saying that the whole reason why some of these platforms are not cracking down and censoring on talks about alleged fraud and things like that kind of come down to the fact that they see it as beneficial now more so than not, because, well, A, it may distract from things, and B, it possibly could demoralize people. So, keep that in mind. Keep it in mind. I don't think that we need to focus too much energy on that. I think we need to be on watch if there's stuff going on, but I haven't seen anything new that I've looked into that's held up. The most I've seen, because the whole Secretary of State stuff didn't hold up when I looked into it for the illegal accusations of illegals registering. But what is true is that there are flyers in Mexico that are being circulated telling people support Biden when you get to the U.S. Again, that's subjective. I haven't fully looked into that, but that still doesn't tell me everything, but who knows. But like I said, be on watch, but vote. Please vote, and make sure you we can stuff the ballot box with as many legitimate, real ballots as possible, to the point where nothing that could possibly happen could overturn that. Joshua Matthews says, do you think it's concerning that despite the fact Haley dropped off, she still gets more than 100,000 votes? Again, not really. Indiana's not really a state that Trump is losing support in suburbs or whatever. It's mainly because of the fact that Democrats don't have a primary. They cross over. Trump still gets, 80% or whatever of the vote. How many of these people are actually, I voted for Trump twice, but I can't stomach him anymore. I'm voting for Haley, like next to, well, actually, I probably will say there's some of them that are iffy or that are voting for Haley or whatever, but not exactly enough to really explain that Trump is in dire straits. Jason Ring says, thanks for your work, our hard work, voice, and sharing your expertise with us all. No one else comes close. You're a go-to. Keep it up. Well, thank you, Jason, for the super chat. I think that's going to do it for the night. We had a great stream tonight, and I will be back with a video tomorrow. We'll probably unlist the stream in terms of the stream being as it is right now, but you guys can find it in the playlist. So don't fret too much about it. We'll be back in another week with another election night stream. We'll be streaming on Sunday, and then we'll produce some content during the week in the meantime. So thank you to everybody for tuning in. I'll see you guys in the next one. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell, follow me on social media before you guys go. Do all that stuff. I'll see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.